Hello. This is the third session of Imperial Diplomacy, or of our AAR for the B1 point, or just the B1F group. Here I'm casual, the Spain player. Joining me are the English player, Shiftyfly, and Abyssinia player. So, would you both like to introduce yourselves?
Oh, hello. I am Shiftyfly. I will be playing, or I was playing England.
Hey, I'm Ming, and I'm the Abyssinia player, and I joined here like 1646 and subbed in.
Yep. Um, I for one, like we have this is a public AAR, so people might come in and out uh, over the course of this recording. This is the third time we've done this, and the prior two times we've had plenty people come in and out as needed. We are on spring of 1648, and we have a few years left to cover, so we'll get right into this. Um, where we left off in the last year was the immediate aftermath of my stab on England and Portugal. Up until that point, us three were kind of undisputed board leaders who were beginning to coordinate to just cleanly close out, reach our impunity goals. And for a few different reasons that I can get into, um, I decided that I didn't want that outcome, or that I didn't trust that that outcome would be particularly safe for me. I had different motivations at different points through convincing myself of the stab. Um, we also, well, I guess that's the main feature of this board from that point on.
Hmm.
Mm. As I I'll begin with North America, where last year we had a interaction with Athapasca, where after I stabbed both England and Portugal, and I pursued some more aggressive moves to sort of pad out my SC count and set myself up for uh, the best 1647 I could for as far as solos were concerned. Um, Many identified the threat and worked against me to to shut me down. So that is exactly what happened. Athapasca did make moves against me with England as in consort, and as a result, my press with Athapasca was one where I'm conceding everything reasonable within their desired expansion into me in exchange for being allowed to keep the Californian coast, for determining the pace by which I gave up Paiute and Ngosute. Um, I will retain Mexico. All this in exchange for all of that, I will lend my full undivided attention to dealing with England, preventing Portugal from making a comeback. Both of these are, and Athapasca talked about this. Both of those were very appealing prospects because Athapasca, while they can interact directly with England and keep them and their VSCC down, Portugal they have no immediate way to affect Portugal's game, and Portugal is as big, if not is more of a solo threat to in this at this point in time. Uh, Especially if that's coming off the tail of a Spain decline. Um, yeah.
I would disagree. I would say that like it's especially I would agree that if you're going to be attacked, then Portugal is definitely going to gain a lot from that. But if Athapasca just sort of left you alone, they wouldn't have to actively help you or give you favorable deals to stop Portugal from soloing, because I feel like you would prevent the solo just by being there in general. Maybe I'm arguing with something that you didn't actually say, in which case I'm sorry.
No, I think that's fair. I think the perception of like who's the larger threats here is something that was always sort of in flux. Uh, but this is, I think, the first. I think it's a year into my repeated attempts through a propaganda channel labeled PSA versus Portuguese and English naval superiority, where I identified that even with my stab, I simply did not have the fleets on the board to contest the North Atlantic Ocean. Uh, I did not have any presence in the South Atlantic Ocean. The Indian Ocean is completely locked down, and the South Pacific is in flux, but it's evenly matched. And so between all of these regions, I thought that that was the larger threat for a potential solo because especially using the complete naval superiority in the Indian Ocean, give you guys like another year, and this is you can defend this amount of dots with very few units, and these units are going to go elsewhere and continue to grow. And there's nothing anyone can do about it because it's only you guys in the in this area that can compete with each other. And Portugal is the dominant one in that they have all of Madagascar in Reunion essentially handled with just two fleets. Um, that's it's very
Mm.
efficient, and on that point of efficiency, I kept hammering away. Compare my units. I have a good balance for what my empire is. I have plenty of armies and plenty of navies, but my battle is on this border of where armies and navies are useful. And once I try and push past that, uh, I can only use my navies in a like to continue to grow, and the armies are somewhat useless. I can't take them off the board, so they have to find uses mainly just as garrisons, but that's not, you guys don't even have garrisons in the Indian Ocean, which is, it was easy to point that out and say that I think between us, or more accurately, I could go to Athapasca and say that like if I lose ground here, if I continue to lose ground here, and it's inevitable that I lose all these centers, I don't think you're gonna find me taking um or hmm, I think it would be a very hard case to make with as few units as I have here that you taking any centers off me would lead me to disband any of these units versus disbanding units in places that Portugal may
I
stand to
see.
gain. You know, I already took a lot off the board here. So, and the threat from me is gone. So if you continue to push into me, that's just weakening me on other fronts that you want me to do better in.
Yeah. I think the way Athapasca handled this situation was very good because I kept sort of begging them to keep, like, to say, like, look, Spain is the top. Spain is just stabbed me for an insane amount of dots, the whole of the Caribbean, basically. Um, or they've also stabbed Portugal, and Spain's the winning threat here. We need to stop Spain. And they kept saying to me, "Look, I am stopping Spain. I'm sort of poking in a bit. I'm tapping them. I'm not allied with Spain. I'm just sort of fighting you first." And it worked out well for them because they were able to grow at a respectable rate from me, while also, I feel, keeping you in check enough that you didn't win before they could get up to 100% via SCC.
Yep. And I think the only reason why me and Athapasca, well, that's actually getting ahead of ourselves, but I have thoughts on how I navigated this, and I think that it was not in exchange we have peace for all time. Everything was conditional. It was just fair enough to me where I never didn't meet the conditions for our mutually beneficial relationship.
Yeah.
Around here, we see my janissaries are doing their job well. Um, I needed these 2 units on the board in the places that they were at, and even if I betrayed them at any point, it wouldn't be here. Uh, I was not particularly interested in that in the first
Yeah.
place,
Did
but even
you
if
talk
I
about that last
was,
time?
a bit. I think that I just sort of dismissed it as I proposed to Ute to do this. They had been getting pretty I don't know. They were following my orders for a lot through this like middle game that we're leaving.
Mm.
And this is just the continuity of that. They're still on the board this late into the game, and I mean even here I have no way to like do anything about it. But I'm convincing them that they're safe in this position. Um,
Yeah. Last time, did you talk about how you used them in the stab?
yes,
Because I think that was
the tactics were like I mentioned the tactics in a way, but they were put into St.
convenient.
Augustine. I I purposely didn't tap Gulf of Mexico, so like even though we
Yeah, it
agreed
was
to
like
bounce there, so you slipped out.
convenient
Tactics.
misorders
Oh,
that allowed.
they were never
They wouldn't be
misorders.
Yeah.
misorders. Also, hello, I'm here.
Oh,
The thing that convinced me that they were misorders was when you actually put in the errors channel, hey, can I, because like I was on data or whatever, and the message didn't send. Can you correct it or something? And that's when I believed
yes,
it.
I did. I did do a map error. I used the map errors channel for diplomacy. And I had said that I had misordered. I had meant to put in the order for Gulf of Mexico, but it didn't send due to I don't know if I said bad data or I didn't like I didn't check to see if it ever sent. Uh, and
Yeah.
honestly, I'm sure there is a way to make that even more convincing by maybe doing it from mobile and going on airplane mode and then taking a screenshot of the message failing to send. I think that would be particularly devilish.
That would
And
be absolutely cool. I think the other thing with Poland is that Poland, like we both kind of stabbed Poland at the same time in the Caribbean,
yes,
but I combined that with a stab everywhere I could because I wanted them to have to disband that fleet, and
including
they
from
retaliated by disbanding everything except that fleet because, of course, that's the fleet that they stand to gain the most centers because it's sort of more of an open theater. They can
they can work
nab
with
centers off
me.
me. Whereas in Europe, even though it is their capital, they're not going to hold it in a million years. They might as well just give up because they've got strong neighbors on all sides.
I mean, Spain was particularly effective at getting minor powers that have no hope of winning just to do what they want.
Yeah,
And Poland is one that I had been working on from the very start because when I agreed to the partition of the Caribbean, I I think that I sort of laid claim to Poland's centers. But
yeah,
it was in a way where that I didn't then immediately go to Poland and say, "Hey, you need to leave the Caribbean. These are my centers in the agreed upon split." I actually considered their units an extension of mine as far as I could keep them in check and said that uh, there's no way we're going to win this Caribbean unless we work together. And I facilitated a really dominant England that made that essential. I put a lot of trust in you that you
um,
wouldn't go to, or I assume that you wouldn't go to Poland here and try and leverage them against me. So I attempted to get there first, and I think that worked. I always had a line open with Poland throughout the years, and everything from them going into Cartagena to Bay of Panama to Jamaica. I was talking to them through the whole way. Not them going into Cartagena. I did not like that. I would have preferred them to go to Windward Passage or something to just make complications for you immediately. But
that made it more believable.
this actually ended up working out. Yeah, going -1 at the start of that year was not I would have preferred that England was potentially going -1, and then I could have another build because that was the decisive year of whether or not I could solo. And I don't know if that
I
one
have
build would have worked one way
I
or the other,
I
but
don't know. You got all the centers in the Caribbean fairly easily anyway. So
yeah. And we'll arrive at that soon.
yeah,
Athapasca, we've just sort of we're gonna try and tighten things up this time, where we're just gonna
Yeah.
quickly go through our position, not cover the whole board, just do things closely to our position, and then once we're done with that, we move on to broader board state stuff if there's anything important, and if there's not, we just keep going. Um, the South American theater, I think this was the first turn where I get into Ajuuran finally. Um, I don't know what I did to convince Portugal to not mess with me. I think it. Yeah, we begin agreeing like late as fall last year, which is fall 1647. We agreed that this war isn't going to end in the way I thought it was, and that we need to adjust. That doesn't mean I don't try and get the most favorable position I can. Uh, it doesn't mean that I don't fumble into some awful mistakes, like around the Flores and Coral Sea maneuver, which I mentioned last time. Uh, but this is me attempting to take this army off the board. If Portugal doesn't see what I see, which they do, and I look kind of silly for that. But Portugal is not too angry at any attempt that I do here because it's the same situation overall. Uh, I'm just trying to get some flexibility in that. I think, yeah, this just leads me to like in South America, we agree that we need to crush Aymara and Mapuche together. I'm not so concerned with Mapuche. Uh, and Portugal I don't think is too particularly concerned with Aymara, seeing as though Aymara at different times is focusing on me or focusing on Portugal, and I just had that previous turn decided to taunt Aymara into, um, putting everything they can against me. Uh, the Dutch the whole time know that they don't have long for this world, and I'm just letting Portugal handle that. And then the stab in the Caribbean is continuing, and it's I think this results in Muskogee going off the board, St. Augustine getting into Gulf of no, because they go
no,
Bahamas Channel.
no, it doesn't.
So I think this goes to Santi. I thought this was coming off the board, but then it goes to Santi, I think. Not the worst thing in the world. Then actually we get into Bahamas Channel with Baracoa. I backfill. We go to Windward Passage until he's current. Um, playing for position where I can, and then trying to take units off the board where I can, where possible, and that it's very beautiful. uh,
I mean, we set that up in North America.
yeah,
The entire move set was designed to force disbands of English armies.
Mhm.
Obviously, because we knew that there's no way in hell you're going to volunteer to remove these armies um, after the stab. So prioritize taking the armies off to make the entire front untenable, and then we can push in and get the result we want
hmm
a
and
lot
then
faster.
and then I mean, yeah, I don't know what the psychology behind like at what point do you disband like your last two armies in a region you're gonna lose anyways to keep units in a front that's more in flux. I don't know.
I Yeah, I did that at the end when I had a couple of units left, but generally I would try and keep them around out of spite.
Yeah. This that we understood that implication very well, and yeah. My press with Poland and Ute, by the way, if anyone's curious, persisted of me sending them the move to do, and not it did not take much convincing in any particular phase at all. Though sometimes I would volunteer that I'm very happy they're still around in the game. Just little things like that to show they're appreciated. Um, yeah. So that's the Americas, and then in the Mediterranean, I think I was so very close to. Oh, wait. I was so very close to killing this fleet in Naples here. I understood a lot of these tactics well, and I think the one thing that I failed to consider was the Ottomans getting tapped in Athens. If this moveset had gone in any other way, with this fleet getting supported into Ionian, this would have resulted in Naples coming off the board. But instead, I'm now facing down 3 really useful Austrian fleets. Um, I guess wrong around Savoy as well, which I don't think this is a bad guess. It keeps them from interfering with Genoa and Marseille. Um, I finish my core on Tunis. I get into Gulf of Gabes, which maybe I should have tapped 11C, but that doesn't matter because everything's getting supported anyways. Um, yeah, uh, it's just the med is going as it does. I established some armies in Morocco so I can self-bounce in Rabat and keep all 3 of these centers on at any time because of this threat of Sea of Azores and the threat of I guess there is no threat from Army Reshabat anymore. In East Asia, I think I make some fairly awful guesses, which does result in my fleet Hokkien coming off the board here. I decide that I think that Ming is going to not have a perfect defense. By the way, if I assumed the perfect defense, which is this, I would get into Hainan and I could hold Hainan, and that would accomplish an objective in its own right where Ming cannot build any fleets in the south anymore. Even if that doesn't result in Macau or anything like that. There was also another move I was considering, which is just to support the move into Macau, tapping Hainan, so that this would have to retreat. But that's even worse than the Hainan maneuver, which would just be to tap there, tap here, and then get in. Maybe with Fokien, so this has a place to retreat. Actually, that's almost certainly what you would do. And that's
So
just
did
because.
that get force disbanded there?
Yeah, it
Your
did.
fleet?
Especially because I guessed poorly around East China Sea. I mean, it's not poorly. This fleet stays in this sort of cage that we're setting up, and uh, that's just an unfortunate fleet disband. That honestly, considering how many fleets I have in the area, it's not the worst thing. But it's a unit that's getting disbanded in spring that is now not there to help with fall, and so this is just a stalemated like southeast. Um, Especially with my poor guess around Fan Rang. I truly believed that IU and Ming were still at war at this point, and I was talking with Ayutthaya about what I would attempt to do here, um, and I think that revealed that I would need support into Fan Rang, and that if they did this maneuver, nothing could break here. Uh, yeah.
Speaking of Ming, they seem to have allied Mughals,
They
which
they
was
which
an
is
annoying
relevant
thing
for
for
your
me.
phase.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do
we
one more thing related to mine, and then I'll switch over to you.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Just my attempt to get Flores here. It works. Um, Me and Portugal were talking through exactly how we would make the line. I think I had said that, or me and Portugal had said that this fleet would go to Papua. Instead, I saw no difference between Banda C and Flores, and so I said I want +1. Especially with the math that I'm seeing everywhere, where I'm stalemated in South America. I'm making progress in the Caribbean, yes, but I don't think that's
Making
any
insane progress in the Caribbean.
right. But I don't think that this growth alone is going to be enough for me to get to the impunity range, and especially when Iberia, I'm going to have to give up not even just these Portuguese home centers, but the Canary Islands. Portugal is already talking about, and so, and that's just over there. I think in in the Mediterranean, if I'm thinking if this cooperation between Ottomans and Austria keeps up, quote unquote cooperation, then I'm not making much progress in Italy anyways. So, and that's without even considering that the Africans are growing in power, from what I can tell, and I'm in no place to capitalize. Meanwhile, Portugal still has Mughals to clean up. They are making good progress in the Persian Gulf. They're they're potentially in a position to blow me up in Oceania if they choose. And I don't know. I just find it so very threatening the whole time. Uh, Really, the only thing that we have like as an icebox of centers is if we decide to start cooperating seriously about Aymara, it wouldn't take that long to clean them up. And that's, I mean, 10 centers between them. That plus the Caribbean, plus what Portugal's growth is set to be, I think that would be enough for both of us to win. But it requires us to actually do something about Aymara, which is slow to manifest.
Mm.
Um, okay, and now for the English position. Where do you want to start?
Should we go to mules? Because we were just talking about that.
Yes.
Focusing there. I had a discussion with Ming this phase about who Spain would gain the most off. Because I was like saying, hey, I'm gonna need to take Sassuam and Kathmandu so that I can build more fleets in the Caribbean, or at least not have to disband as many fleets, and so I can slow down Spain because Spain stabbed me, so therefore I can't let Spain solo or win if possible. You know, that's generally how I try to operate. Anyone who stabs me, I do everything I can to stop them from winning off it. Generally, yeah, I've been cooperating with Portugal the whole time. We are just cleaning up here, but Kathmandu and Sassuam, with Ming's help, it's particularly tricky to do. I took Andaman off IU, but that was it was like half arranged. I was like, hey, I need Andaman, and they were like, well, I can't keep it in the long run anyway, so not too bad. Move on to a different Europe, maybe. I can't remember what's happening in Europe. Ah, yes, okay. This is the year that Sweden also stabs me. I think last year Sweden supported Inuit into Greenland Sea.
I actually think that Greenland Sea unit was there a little while ago. Once it got to
Uh,
Greenland, it
oh
has
yeah, it might have
stayed
been
there.
there.
Um,
Not the first time that they've been in Greenland Sea though. I remember I kicked them out, and then they got back in.
then they might have
They
they might have gotten in
they
last year.
supported them in spring last year.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Yeah, things are not going good. I think I did make a deal with Inuit that we would both get out of the North Atlantic so that I didn't have to worry about them going into Europe. But, the damage was already done.
They
Yeah,
do.
I didn't,
Yeah.
I was then went to them and went, hey, that's quite aggressive. And they went, well, I did go out of North Atlantic. And I was like, okay, sure, you did. But anyway, yeah, I can't make any more progress against France this year. and Austria isn't talking to me much. So I'm just assuming Austria will take Paris. Portugal will take Bordeaux. I managed to get into Galicia, which was actually Athapasca's idea before they stabbed.
That was a good idea.
It was good. The army just kind of stayed there for the rest of the game, doing like tapping Madrid whenever Portugal asked. I feel like that could have been Portugal's army that was doing it, but I don't know. This is a really bad position for me, I feel. There was no front except perhaps India, where I am actively gaining. And even in India, I am not going to gain much more with Ming helping out Mughals. I think this is the year that I find out Portugal has been telling people they'll throw to me. But I then confronted them and said, hey, if anyone's going to be doing throwing, it's going to be me. So I think from this point onwards, I was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to win, but I can help Portugal to win. And, Portugal's been nice to me the whole game. I might as well. That's why
sorry.
I moved all out of India with Penna.
So I'll say that you mentioned that. This is one thing I didn't know where exactly to mention, but in my negotiations with Portugal, how they started off was I think it was after my like testing of Portuguese like patience, putting Sumatra into Batavia, taking Flores, my moves around Iberia. Like I'm trying to de-escalate our situation by shoring up my defenses and testing their weaknesses and getting them to do favorable moves to me as you do when you're making peace. Uh, I'm saying that a little sarcastically. Their response to that was essentially, if I did not stop that and get serious about making peace here, then they have no qualm with like not throwing to England here, or however you say that. Just and the second I got a message that was indicating that they would throw, I don't like to share press. I generally I don't share press. And if anyone asks me, I've never shared press, so you can say like anything you ever your deepest darkest secrets to me, and no one will ever know. In this case, everyone knew
Mm,
Portugal's secret completely organically though, because I sent it to them. Everyone
right.
that I thought it would be relevant to, I sent that exact message. I put it in bold so that they understood that this was Portugal's message, and then after that, I added some of my own like commentary on that, and essentially like you might not want me to solo. I don't think I'm a solo threat here when England is so close to winning in VSCC, and Portugal is also about as strong as I am with more expansion opportunities. If either of them decide to throw to the other, then the game is just over. So I'm not asking you to be kinder to me, but don't give them lifelines. They already have one in each
Damn.
other, and
Maybe is
that actually I think had a effect on Ming's decision. I think that had an effect on
yeah,
the Dutch's decision,
Kongo.
especially because I did look at the press between the Dutch and Portugal, and while Portugal was trying to get them to continue fighting me, after the Dutch took Banjarmassen from me, I retreated to Silibsi, and I said, I'm not going to fight you anymore. We're chill. I will help you however I can. That should have been the proposal from the very beginning, and you will be my bulwark against the Indian Ocean, which actually did work out. I got very favorable moves from the Dutch, which Banjarmassen I don't think is very favorable. I think this is just that like they can grow off me when from Salib C if I ever give them the chance. I don't intend to give them the chance if spoiler. But yeah, every little thing about if it was like hard to justify like why no regional wanted to work with Portugal or England at this stage, that's partially why is because you guys are still tied at the
Yeah.
hip, and if any of you get I'm sending a message like that, even if even if it's very specific. Like Portugal was trying to get a very specific thing out of me, which was peace between us and to just proceed to victory together. And that if I was not interested in that, then Portugal would just give up and then go and give a victory to an England who, in their view, is more deserving. I don't agree with that philosophically,
Uh,
but uh, the
I
the
like it. I really like that.
the the what everyone else sees though is that Portugal is threatening me with a throw. And
Yeah.
if that's just because I'm at war with a power that I'm at war with, and they don't know about the peace negotiations in the background, then it does look a bit more irrational, and that maybe you should make things really difficult for them so that even if they were to suddenly gain a burst of centers, like 8, +8, -8, one person to another traded between you guys, it might not be enough to just run away with the game here. Um,
The funny things about this is that he did not consult me at all beforehand. I found out from, I think it was a post in the propaganda channel where
yeah.
I was like trying to get people to go against Spain, and Netherlands said, "Hey, Spain isn't the one who's had a major power threatening to throw to me," and I went, "Excuse me."
Turns
And
out
also,
you were the last to know.
yeah, I was the last to know. Also, I don't think Portugal actually could have thrown to me. I don't think I was in a position to take any of Portugal's centres except in India. And to do that, I would have needed to build armies, and I wasn't getting any builds. Um,
Yeah. In that sense,
that
this may not have been like the most potent threat, but it's not so much the tactics involved in that. If you
the
wanted that to
sentiment.
work, you could make that work, right? Um,
Yeah,
Okay.
really, it's just that like yeah, once it's spoken into the world, like you can't take that back. One
that
one other
explains.
detail of the
Oh yeah.
press I do want to
Okay.
mention is that we've talked about this, and this is the importance of like how you do press. Like it's not just the message you're writing; it's how you present it. I didn't make a group chat and make that announcement. I went one by one to each power individually and made a specific case to them based on my relationship with them. Some powers, it was very easy to have that piece of intel be taken, like with Tokugawa and with Athapasca, who have been my nominal friends up until then. Um, and then others I had a love-hate relationship with, like the Netherlands, Aymara, and I that took a bit of like legwork to make that one look real, uh, and then two to present it in a way where like what I'm asking you is this. I don't need like unconditional support. I'm not asking you to flip allegiances, though with the Netherlands I kind of was. I'm asking us to work together on mutual interests, and I convinced them that the mutual interest was in taking you down.
Also,
Mm,
you did not create a group chat for that, but you gave that message to Shoshone. And you gave
Yes.
that message to Shoshone with instructions because you told me uh, that Shoshone was going to take that and go put it into the anti-colonial chats.
Yes.
So that message got put into all the group chats, but it was not done by Spain.
And that
Spain's hands was
reinforced the
clean.
that reinforced and that was when I needed it to reach certain powers who um simply did not would not have accepted anything that I sent them, and it also kind of reinforced like the importance of that message. Uh,
this is the sort of thing that like it's hard to tell if it would have like shifted things incredibly well, or if it would have just fallen on deaf ears and done nothing, and you wasted all that effort,
I can see
which is something I need to
specific
get better at.
moves. I can see specific moves like the move into Sassuram, like the Dutch moves here, where I can point to and said my work in the press directly resulted in these interactions going the way they did.
Yeah, Congo in particular. I remember asking Congo to cut me some slack because, I don't have that many centers. I just want to sort of keep what I have. I think I had gone into Sao Tome a while ago because Portugal said they were going to move against Congo, and I was like, well, okay, I don't think Congo's getting a build. I can just take Sao Tome with no consequences. Behold the consequences before you.
Yeah, 4 Congolese
Congo were
units.
very unwilling to work with me. Uh, Probably because I was colonial, and also
I
because
think it
I'd
like
taken a center.
probably was also like the split that Congo and I agreed on was basically him taking West Africa, so it only was his
Mm,
only way to go. So yeah,
yeah. But also because he saw me as much more of a threat than I saw Spain and I saw myself. And I think that was just, Spanish press in general, but also maybe that message in particular shifting his opinion.
I think the one thing you can do is you can like lay off powers who are already kind of aligning with you. Um, don't if they are an instrument for your success, the worst thing you can do is give them the clue that that's what's going on. If they fight a war with you because of their agreed upon split with Abyssinia, which I may or may not have predicted, uh, I think that I don't need to say anything to Congo. They don't even need
I,
to
I
think
talked
about me at all. um,
I talked a lot with Congo, obviously, and I was constantly pushing him towards Portugal in the south and England in the west, because if at some point we wouldn't got that well along, and he did not want to give me his centers in the end, I always have like the perfect step opportunity there. He can't do anything when his armies moves with like west and south. So yeah, that's I was always like keen on pushing him towards England and Portugal. So. I don't know
yeah,
if Spain talked to him as well, but at least I did the whole time. Like, go for England as well, go for Portugal. I'm gonna join you with Portugal and stuff like that. Yeah.
yeah. And by having a great relationship with you, I had a okay relationship with Congo. You'll find in my press I did not talk with Congo all that much actually. Um, Everybody else I talked to a ton, but Congo not so much. Ching, I don't have a press channel with Ching actually. I'd never talked to Ching. They're the only power I didn't. But
I think I tried to message Ching and then didn't get anything back, and then never tried again.
yeah. I
I
Uh,
want to
think
just
like
finish off
do
with
you- oh yeah,
America
okay.
though. In your position here, I guess you're just trying to make some complicated problems for me. Gulf of Mexico could be potentially very complicated. Um, but
I feel like at this
yeah,
point I was not putting too much thought into my tactics, just relying. I find like the bit of diplomacy I'm best at is the tactics, the unit strategy, rather than the talking and the big picture stuff. So I didn't sit down and plan them out for an hour like I have in previous games, or even like this game when I'm uh planning a stab or something. I just sat down in quarter of an hour before the deadline and just looked at the map and went, okay, what's for the first thing that springs to mind to keep me alive?
yeah. I find it very difficult to make plans like hours ahead of time when I don't know what resources I'm working with. If I was facing down this, I don't know what I would do. I don't even
You
know what my
also
objective would be, actually.
you subbed in quite back in quite late into this phase as well, if I remember correctly.
Me,
'Cause we
that could have been the case actually, yeah.
Yeah, because we start talking in the spring, like late in the spring, because you get back and quite rightly probably want to know what the hell happened,
I
considering.
was I was keeping more of an active interest in the game than I was anticipating. I was less busy than I expected, but probably still too busy to input orders. So I was monitoring the chats a bit. Sometimes I would reference a message in my void and go, yes, do this, like with a thumbs up. But yeah, my sub just kind of stopped talking for the second half of the week that I subbed out on. So, and then I came back and we had NMR'd this spring move. Fortunately, there was a day's extension or something. So yeah, I might have got the orders done then. Should we talk about Africa? I think Abyssinia has some
Yes.
stuff to say.
Let's have Abyssinia like cover all. Well, let's go.
I think like in this phase, it's like very compact. I messed up with McKellar, so given I can't build fleets for the next 2 years, or at least like for now, my plans on attacking Portugal needs to wait a bit. So I'm still fighting against Ottomans for obvious reasons, like taking as many dots as I can, because this is like a natural expansion direction. But also, I always plan to, like, if Ottomans is dead, like, the only one I can fight here is probably Portugal and to a lesser extent Spain, if I don't want to go into Congo, obvious. So, given I couldn't build fleets because I lost Michele, I was talking to the Portuguese player a lot and tried to like get Baidoa Mogadishu, which he never could hold, but also make his fleets move away, like always being like, yeah, I can step Congo for you, because that's what he wanted the whole time. And yeah, try to do like a lot of promises and never really keep them, but not really attack them as long as I don't have the fleets to do so. Also, like looking the movesets, they're all done there. So to disband the fleet in Michele, I would have loved to convoy into the Arabian Peninsula earlier this year, but I couldn't because I needed to cover Suakin to disband the fleet. And then if you go a little bit south, it's like me moving into Congo, which I talked about in the last AAR. So widening my corridor going south, and also like taking 1 or 2 dots of Congo, which might fake the step to Portugal. I don't know if you ever believed it, but it was kind of the plan that I like walk into Congo, take 1 dot of him by also getting south, and then by faking that I step Congo, I get Baidoa Mogadishu for free, and in that time I can build some fleets to actually get into position to fight Portugal. Yeah, and meanwhile I like have Spain still helping me with Cairo the whole time. That's basically all that happens there. Because this choke into Mecca is like really, really hard to push in. At least as long as
Yeah.
I don't convoy armies through Red Sea, and yeah, I can't do this now because I needed to disband Mekille. So that's happening here. Yeah, and the main goal still was like allying with Congo, make him to go south and west, and join him south against Portugal at some point, and taking Ottoman dots. That's basically all that happens here.
I remember asking you to help me against Spain at some point, but I don't think you could have done anything. But how worried about Spain did you feel?
It was still pretty early for me in this game, like 1 or 2 years. And as I said before, like he helped me to get a dot, and after that, always were like pretty friendly. And looking at the map, I never felt like I could really take much off of him. Like, sure, at some point I could attack North Africa, but as long I did not get into Ottoman's Arabian Peninsula, I was like, I need Spain's help to hold, and I don't want it to get Ottomans to get off the hook, like take their centers first. And after that, I could build more armies, which might go into Sahara and then attack North Africa. But it never felt like I can do that much against Spain. And it was like, given I joined so late, I did not feel the responsibility to be like the one who's stopping Spain now. Because looking at the map, like it felt no one really fighting Spain other than Portugal, maybe in mainland. I talked to Austria a bit and even Ottomans. I was like, I can help you on the mat if you just give me like Mecca for free and Aden. But given our press before, he never wanted to do that, so I needed to focus on that front. And then I was like, yeah, it's not my responsibility if Spain wins here. I can just say I joined here 2 years later or earlier, so not my fault that everyone messed up and Spain wins so early, you know? That was kind of my mentality in that. Because I did not thought that I have an actual shot at winning this game. I just wanted to like get as good of a position in that time I'm in here, at least for the first 3 or 4 years. That was like my goal. Take over the
Yeah,
situation and improve it as good as it can be, and then be able to say, yeah, whatever, the game is over, someone messed up, Spain wins. But look at me, I managed to get this better of a position than before. Isn't that great?
yeah, that's fair enough. Is there anything else anyone wants to talk about, or
I
do we go
think
on to the next
we
phase?
probably want to look at Eastern Europe very quickly because that will
Oh
be
yeah.
important. One nice thing, you look at Warsaw, you can see that Russia, Sweden, and Austria have all agreed that Poland should be there. They're all support holding them in place. But yeah, so they've basically just all finished partitioning Poland, and they're all kind of holding in place. The only thing that doesn't, there is a Russian unit that tries to tap an Austrian, but I'm sure that's not indicative of any forthcoming violence that might occur. There's also a conga line of Swedish armies um, coming out of Denmark.
Oh yeah, to attack me.
And
Definitely you, yeah.
one thing that I was thinking about after seeing this, I wondered, and I was checking on my phone when about I told them that they needed to pick up the pace on fighting you, uh, because they were behind a bit, and I think, they had sent me a message at some point where it's like, I swear to God, if you end up winning this, I'm gonna have to not play in the same games as you, because this is the same player that was that was Mughals in A2C, and needless to say that they in both games they had a good game, but every time they interacted with my board, it didn't their efforts were
Yeah.
short. This is no
Mm.
exception. So it's two-sided. I know that I would like to see England collapse a bit faster. Um, and I also know that they want to have winning chances. So I think it's a very easy thing to ask them to, if they were going to stab England at all, given how many fleets they have on the board, they need to do something. Um, to do that sooner rather than later. Um, and I think that I don't know what ends up happening in fall, but this feels like a really good, um, like the window is open. Had they waited another season, I think the window would have closed with all these moves going on.
I don't think so. I think if they had waited another season, I would have maybe disbanded a couple of fleets from that area, and then it would have been more open.
Hmm. Yeah, I suppose. Uh, I never know what exactly to think when it comes to like
Uh,
banking on disbands, because there's a
yeah,
lot
I
more
don't
that
know.
you could before that, like
Um,
Galicia, for instance. But
I never actually ended up disbanding that.
I know.
Just guess.
uh,
It was just too useful to like attack you with, even though it didn't do anything.
I love the fact it was there.
Yeah, is my one claim to fame. I actually invaded Spain.
Yeah, I loved it
I,
because every year I could go to Spain and go, yeah, I think you need to build more in Iberia because England's still there.
though I don't know how seriously I took that.
oh,
I built more in Iberia in the end, but I didn't do it for those reasons. Yes. So we
yeah,
can.
Iberia. I have no idea what happened, like how it ended up like that, because then, like, how it went from there, where it is now, to basically how it was at the start of the game, just with me and Galicia.
It's just the problem with the fleet army balance. When you fight on areas along the coast, you need to have a good naval presence, just like how you can't make navies like push into the continent or take centers that have a lot of places where armies can sit. Like you
Yes.
need paradoxically like the stalemate lines in ImpDip are not like an army line in Russia. It's going to be that like you have just the right amount of navies to stop any movement up here. You have enough armies to stop any movement in the interior, and like it's the balance. The balance is what matters. And I think some of the worst stalemates you could get into are like, what's a good example? I think actually in the
The,
around here with like how large the sea
uh,
tiles are. Uh, or how large the land tiles are compared to how many sea tiles, you
I
can't
noticed there
actually.
was a stalemate. I think this when I was playing Inuit, there was lots of stalemates around Newfoundland.
Yeah, like trying to get out of like the North American passages. There's a whole bunch. Like,
Definitely. But also,
also
if you
trying.
get into Labrador Sea, it's very hard to
Yeah,
then. It's easier to defend even then.
yeah. Trying to send armies south from North America to South America or South America to North America. You also have to have navies because you cannot get up that. Um,
And to do that, you need to have cores in the right places and everything.
yeah, it's a nightmare.
Oh yeah, I mean like this
By
is
design,
like
by design.
the
Yeah,
yeah. Again, all this is by design, and I think it makes
yeah.
finding a niche for yourself. Like if you dominate the seas, uh, if you like carve that out like early, and then there's no punishment for that, I think that that ends up being like that's the best like diplomacy you can do year one winter, year two winter. When the people are having the most builds, they can modify the balance of their force the most. If you can convince someone to just go nothing but armies, meanwhile, you're just conveniently having all the fleets to dominate an entire ocean, like what Tokugawa tends to do, then you're going to be in for a good time. I actually think that like having the like some armies doesn't make as much sense because they can do certain things, but then they end up in places that can't get the support from people backfilling. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I don't know. But thinking on
Let's go
that,
to next year.
yeah, I
Let's go
mean
to fall.
we have winter, or
Yeah, yeah.
we have a
Well,
lot.
we've got fall first. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Fall comes before winter, winter comes before the next year. The retreats are fairly standard. I think Tokugawa, again, having a great turn at my direction, takes Oriental Sea here. The Inuit are now establishing a very strong presence. The Russians are coming in. The walls are closing in around Qing, it seems, and uh, yeah, we can't dislike that if you're me or Toku here. Losing Hokkien was sad, though. Um, these two units do get disbanded actually, because I think England decides that they don't want it to be in Santi,
uh
which or did you not
yeah, so
catch that it could do it?
Saint Augustine is a choice disband. Muskogee is a forced disband.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then also you have two other armies that are
Yeah.
retreating. The northeast just looks very very sad. One army and one fleet to cover three centers and Port Royal, though I suppose these are also around. Um, what else could we? Well, I suppose that
go to
everything
fall, I
else.
guess.
Oh, Mapuche is out of their center and probably dying. That's the other thing that could be mentioned. In fall, again, gonna try and tighten this up a bit. Um, I decided that I want to make peace with Aymara again. And that me sitting in Exura here, that's not like possible. And I'm potentially risking this getting disbanded. So I decide to put it into Peru Basin. I decide to get into Jay, which in my mind is making the front shorter. Because I don't have to cover Amazon and Bellum. I can just Jay, Madeira, Quecha Lima. That's not exactly how that works. I do need another unit behind an Amazon, another unit in Putumayo to hold everything. Because if you tap Madeira and then get support attacked in J, or vice versa, that's not good. Um, so yeah, I think this was
Neither's
a little bit.
Aymara moving into EH, is that?
Yeah, and this is potentially the biggest like structural breach to my line that I could have gotten. Because it's only one season away from Huitoto, Hue Toto. I Someone will tell me how that's pronounced, but they can border Quito, Bogota, and the Putumayo, all of which are my cores. Um, if they get into Bogota, that's even further infiltration. And while yes, it is one unit and it's only going to take away one SC, I don't, and that's something only ImpDip can say when the number of centers we're playing around with are in the 50s. But if I can't dislodge that, that could turn into something as worse as like losing two centers potentially, and just completely disrupting my entire game. Everyone knows why infiltration is bad. I was debating whether or not this was particularly bad, especially if it took a unit off the line, but I realized that I really don't like that. I really don't like that it's there. Especially with my choice to attack with Orinoco instead of Cartagena, because I was worried about naval stuff in the Caribbean Sea. Um, Whereas maybe if this is one turn away from Hui, I would have been able to like do something about that. Um, in the Caribbean, I focus on of all things, I focus on trying to like pop the army in New Courland, and I do. I do succeed in that. I do get kicked out of Barbados, but I like that I pop the army in Caracas. Uh, I get into Saint Domingo. I get into Antilles Current. I decided that I'll ignore the Bahamas for now, and I'll get into Florida Current with support. Um, we were worried about Catawba this turn. There are worlds where England supports an attack with Gulfstream, and it gets dislodged. And even if they go to Norfolk, that's only 1 year off from them maybe getting contained and then blown up, and they have no core. So this was something to consider. We put them into Cherokee for that reason. Though I'm sure Athapasca might have like a bombshell, like actually I meant to sabotage or whatever. I don't know. Athapasca can speak to their point of view on this. I just agreed that like their survival was important, and so I didn't mind putting them into Cherokee here. I may have even suggested putting them into Cherokee.
I think I suggested it because you were doing your paranoid thing.
Yeah.
Where you were worried about everything I said. Um, but yeah, no. I mean, we put them in Cherokee because that was the way to disband the English army. Was the main
Oh.
thing at the end of the day. Um,
Yep. Another English army off the board.
yeah, we, yeah, basically looking at it, it was we couldn't guarantee. Uh, it guaranteed kept Shoshone alive, and it uh, basically ensured that army was coming off the board if England didn't pull back their own line themselves. Uh, Hence, making that play. And I wasn't in that center anyway, so it wasn't really a threat to me. It was technically -1 Spanish center. And Shoshone wasn't building, so yeah.
Yeah,
And
and this is how a
yeah,
power
it
with
was on
no
the understanding
cores.
I would get it later, so
Yeah,
whatever.
but it's still cool to see a power with no cores end up with
Yeah,
going +1.
Shoshone doubles.
Yeah, and this has all the strategic implications that that implies. Uh, I shift around in Cuba. I think people get. I think people find this funny after a little bit how I play musical chairs with the Polish fleet and its base of operations throughout the game. Starting out in Jamaica, then them moving to Baracoa, then I move them to Havana, only to then get out of Baracoa and put myself in Havana. Um, but that's just because at this point I don't want them on the front line anymore. I want them uh, just in a place to back up my moves. Um, I think I had like a very particular. It's probably just like sentimental. I wanted the Spanish to own Havana. That felt natural. Um, And then, okay, the Med. Not my finest hour. Uh, Naples needed to tap Adriatic Sea. No, it didn't. I think it was just like a move that I plugged in without thinking, and it resulted in that fleet getting blown up. Whereas I could have held everything had I just chilled out a bit. In fact, I not only could have held everything, but the Ottomans would have been in Ionian, forcing Austria to retreat. Um, it would have put them in Gulf of Gabes, but that doesn't have like the problem it once did. Now that I have Tunis, um, but in Iberia, you know, I'm in Navarre, I guess. Um, there's thoughts about what I can do here to still win the war, but I think I'm giving up a little bit. Most of this was coordinated with Portugal, and so I'm giving up the two Portuguese centers along the coast and Canaries while setting up my defenses in Morocco. I agree to bounce with them in Arguin. I also, at this time, ask Abyssinia to come into Oswanik to apply some pressure to Portugal. Even if I'm making the agreement with Portugal, I want them to be under pressure so they don't feel that they can leave that agreement. And I also want to continue to look to the colonials or the regionals like I'm not negotiating with Portugal, which is an important thing to, for me at least.
I think at
Read
that
every
time I just walked into there because we still had this regional African thing going, and it was like my way of saying, Mali, I'm gonna help you. Even this unit never accomplished anything, to be honest. It just walked in there, was
walked
like,
out.
I used it to in my negotiations with Portugal because he wanted to get he wanted to tap Timbuktu and stuff, and later I could have retreated and not annoy him with that, and therefore I got some leverage around fleets in the Indian Ocean at my borders, something like that. But this unit never managed to help Mali at all or take
Yeah,
anything. To be honest, it just walks back next year anyway. So
and then just continuing to help out Abyssinia around Cairo. I want to cover Tripoli because I'm worried about Levantine Sea. Um,
I finally get my convoy to Arabia. I hold both cores, not cores, but dots, still centers. So yeah, they flip and fall, and I start moving my first fleet out towards Portugal. Also, I don't know. I think I supported myself into Mogadishu.
you also take
Uh,
Baidoa, and
yes, so pretty successful year. Yeah, Burundi was like one of the dots I take off of Congo while it moves south. So I think it's like +5 or something like that.
yeah, really good. If I check, you start at 12 and you end on 17,
So yeah, +5.
which, by the way,
And
Sweden
like
starts at 17, ends at 17. So, uh,
I
yeah,
also like the year before I went from 7 to 12, so it was a +5 as well. So it's like 2 years back to back +5. I know that it's
yeah.
not true. It was like
I think you have plus
+3.
4.
Yeah, but something like that. Yeah, whatever.
Still, really, really good catch up going on there. Um, in Asia, I don't recall what happens. I think I just tap everything so that Hainan can't leave. They could self-bounce and all that, but um, I'm trying. The I'm shifting around to like put more pressure specifically on Fanrang, and then Ming is coordinating with Ayutthaya still to, and I don't realize this, but Ming and Ayutthaya are very clearly cooperating to disrupt my moves to kick out Cambodia, and this had the consequence of me staying in Gulf of Siam, which I don't think Ayutthaya really appreciated at the time. I hold Batavia, I hold Flores, I tap Donny. Um, that much is agreed upon with Portugal. This stuff, it isn't. But I'm doing it to get better leverage, which unfortunately England is able to. This is another thing I was hoping for, but never really explicitly coordinated with Ayutthaya. I was hoping that they would tap Andaman and that Andaman wouldn't even think to support any movement into Sumatra. But this disrupts our plans a bit, I think. It makes it so that Portugal now has a foothold into infiltrating like all of Indonesia, even if it
I
wasn't
can't
realistic
remember.
to hold against Indian Ocean.
So I can't remember if I expected some it to go through the support. Oh, that was it. No, I expected it to get tapped, but I was like, well, what else is that fleet supposed to do? You know, there's no reason for me not to do it.
Yep. And it's the sort of thing where it's like, even if you are making peace with somebody and you're talking about, like, making sure everyone's all equitable and stuff like this, I think that would destabilize the relationship that me and Portugal are trying to have. Because at this point, Portugal's telling me that I could always go and kill Dutch here. They might be serious about that. They might genuinely think that that's the best way to do this. I know better, though, and I know that I do not have the fleets to hold all my centers around Brunei and Makassar, as well as protect the more vulnerable places around the Philippines. Uh, this is like 8 centers being held with 5 fleets in the south, while I'm using, I guess, like the 6 fleets up here. It was 7 when I still had Hokkien to try and like take some more centers, but not quite, not quite. Um, and then Tokugawa, I think, actually pulls off a really great turn. To be honest, I was very proud of this. Uh, right, it's just down to like Ming and Qing not coordinating all that well. Maybe there was like a new sub or something, but taking Pyongyang, taking Izo, uh, this I remember us feeling really good about this actually. The only thing that, and I'm sure if Tokugawa was here, they'd say as much. The only thing that was a foil to this plan was this fleet in Tsugaru Strait. This messes up every sort of attempt to now leave the home islands and go outwards for Japan. Um, because you have this one unit that can like guess any of your centers, or even go out into NPO and move and like stop your movements through there. Um,
Have we talked about how you and Japan ended up as allies?
I just
Yeah.
I was the only one who was giving them a lifeline that was reliable. Ming was telling me
Yeah.
that they want to like skull crush Tokugawa after their stab, and that like I could get my share of the centers from that. I knew better. I didn't want like 2 Chinese naval powers to replace the one uh, Japanese naval power who was fighting a 2v1. I
Yeah, that's
knew
fair
who I was
enough.
going to side with. And even if we ended up losing, we're stalling out the larger threat. Whereas if I sided with the winner, the not well side with the underdog because you can always stall out the winners. But if you side with the winners, and it's not even necessarily to your benefit. It's a short term gain. Uh, all
Right,
these
not
units
everyone did that to
are
me.
essentially mine. Um, in their like direction. I'm signing off on all the moves that are going through. Even if Tokugawa is waiting for the opportunity to like just slip into NPO, then slip into Philippine Sea, as they've talked about several times in our calls up until this point. Um, Finally a victory that I was like hoping for, which is that like Portugal suffers a setback in the Persian Gulf. They take Baghdad, but they lose Shiraz. That was like one thing I was looking for. Though it looks like India gets mixed up a bit, and there's no progress from Portugal here. Um, Likewise, England doesn't get Sassuram. Ming gets Sassuram.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I. Oh, and Poland finally loses Warsaw, which now makes me feel real confident that they'll stay in line in as long as I'm like their security guarantor in the Caribbean. If they were to go +2,
Yeah.
they would have nowhere to even build it. That's always been kind of the case, and the player themselves has come in here and said that they were demoralized at this point and that this is just fun. So,
I think I
yeah.
miscalculated when it came to Poland, because that was, yeah, I mean, the alternative would be having another Spanish fleet in place of that, which would probably be more versatile for you. But I think just the unexpectedness of it being Poland, and I guess a bit of the psychological aspect being there's now 2 people against you instead of 1. I don't know,
Yeah,
not a good situation for me.
I think if we want to start Abyssinia, you had mentioned your situation here already. Athapasca, your stuff is very straightforward. We're just going after like it
I
disbands and
think
stuff here.
there is one interesting thing which we should look at, and that
Mhm.
is what Inuit's doing in the most cursed place in North America, and that is they're walking out of Anticosti, because that
Oh.
is where every single fumble in North America happens.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes. They
Uh,
expected me to bounce them in Papua Choice,
yeah,
um,
so,
but they
and
underestimated how spiteful I was against you.
they initially asked me to bounce with them, and I didn't particularly want to do that because I wanted to support my army into Quebec because I didn't want to bounce in Quebec because that stalls out any progress I make against you.
Yeah, I wanted to
Um,
take a
well, not
50-50
any
on your 2
progress.
cities.
It's stalling out like one more army. Uh,
y-
I think with
It's
this
yeah,
going
North
but
gassed though.
America, like
It's
yeah.
slowing down the take of Port Royal.
Oh, I'm not interested in Port Royal. That I've said Inuit can have that.
Okay,
That's how I solve that problem. Uh,
fair enough. It's an easy
um,
one for Inuit to take.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Inuit at one point basically came to me and said, "Hey, how do you feel about a first come first serve on getting into English centres?" And I looked at that and was like, "But I just get everything." Didn't say that part, but then I said, "No, I feel like it makes more sense to just agree to support each other." So I basically said, like, it makes more sense for you to have Port Royal, despite the fact I could probably rush there and get there first if I really wanted to. But yeah, so that was me throwing them a bone, saying you can have Port Royal. Don't look at Portland, Boston, New Amsterdam, Philadelphia, Seneca, and all that.
Yeah, they're surprisingly easy for a naval power to take. They don't look
Yeah,
like it, but there's lots of centers, lots of um, territories you have to cover if you're defending them. Otherwise, fleets can just slip in.
yeah, I know. Yeah, it was a nightmare when considering what Spain might do later. But yeah, yeah. So they wanted the bounce. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that because I was fairly confident you were coming for me anyway because you did not like me at this point, which was fair enough. I think I suggest they actually rotated Nascapi across to get the fleets out, but they decided to do this instead. Which, I mean, they get the fleets out, but it does involve them walking out of Anticosti at the expense. But yeah, that's the main thing that happened up there.
and
Will I
they
get a
could
retreat
have
into
really used
Anticosti?
the build. Also, that's something to mention. Like it's not like oh man, they just don't get that build, and England has one more build. It's that Inuit at this point in the game could really use any builds at all, especially in Alaska, to have a bit more security for themselves. But alas,
Yeah, Inuit's been in 14 for a while, I think.
yeah. All right. Um, I feel like that's most of the implications of this position adequately covered. I think the only thing to look at would probably be, I mean, we already talked about Eastern Europe. I think actually the more significant thing that
Um,
happens here is just
oh,
I
can I
remember
just?
seeing this phase and thinking, well, this is the death of the Ottomans. They lost Aden,
Ah,
they lost
yeah.
Mekelle, they lost Baghdad, they lost Trebizond. They had lost Tbilisi the previous turn.
Yeah.
They now have Russia and Austria working together against them on Constantinople. And yeah, I mean that's not too good, is it? uh this
Can we just go back to Inuit quickly? You were saying they were on 14 centers for a while. I think that's a thing with Inuit. Once you reach like around so many centers, it's just really hard to make progress after that without stabbing Athapasca.
I think one, yeah,
It's because
yeah.
either you're focusing on the east and you get stalemated in the west, or you're focusing on the west and you get stalemated in the east. But yeah, and that's just what I found as well when I was playing Inuit. But
I think it's like not very interesting, but if you look at the Russian border towards Arabia, there's like he's tapping Levant. I think it's called like that, right? Levant, yeah, whatever. And I thought I needed that tap in that moment, but as you can see, we did not. But I had other move planned before that, and I talked to Russia about that. But in the press, he was like very, very rude, and it was kind of a weird press, which basically led to me deciding that I don't want to work with Russia at all in this game, which also might conclude it later down the line why I was so easy to walk into the 4-player impunity and not trying anything more. So Russia couldn't get in because it was such a weird discussion about this one tap. So I couldn't even rely on that tap, and that's why I changed move orders there. But yeah, it was like very weird press with him at that point.
okay,
Yeah, I found Russia to be kind of unreliable in our press myself.
I can't remember what my
Giving
press with
them
Russia was
the moves
like.
that I would have sent them to like betray the Ottomans, and them using the picture I sent them to like try and like read the tea leaves about my moves. I don't know. It was strange. I saw that after the fact, but Russia was strange. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
that was it. Me and Russia were. Our conversation was entirely, hey, do you want help against Mughals? And then, please don't take Kabul, even though you could. And then, when are you going to stab Sweden? It doesn't look like you're stabbing Sweden. Please stab Sweden.
It was like I think I offered him help against Portugal later down the line, and he did not want to make the tap because he thought it wouldn't work tactically, and then it was like a discussion about tactics, uh, which he tried to prove me wrong while he didn't even know my moves. So that was kind of weird, and like called me idiot in that face and stuff like that. And I was like, we never interacted before. Why were we talking about this? And that's yeah. So
yeah, just strange all around. I'm going to proceed quickly to the builds. We have Austria building an army, Russia building an army, our army in Tehran as well, which gives them a lot of tempo in the Middle East. Two armies in Siberia, where they are already doing really good with their, complete supremacy here. Uh, Me and Toku celebrate these disbands, but to be honest, we were hoping that it'd be Hangyang and Tsugaru Strait, and that staying on was really important. This army also goes away.
Yeah, I feel
Um,
like the rule of disbands is never disband a unit that's going to be a nuisance.
yeah, nuisances are negotiating leverage,
At
and
one point,
then
I think I NMR'd a retreats phase and lost a valuable army. You'll see it in a couple of years.
yeah, there's Army Jene because Mali lost an army last phase and now regains that army. They're continuing to be a nuisance. I build Fleet Tunis, Fleet Barcelona to help my situation in the Med, and I celebrate. I'm like, yes, all of these units coming off the board.
I remember we talked about that, and I was like, before he's gonna disband Arabia, trust me, he's gonna disband your Mediterranean stuff, and he did.
Yeah, there was, and you for your own right, you got your fleet in Marig. You got 3 armies on the board that are in a really. These forward dots are so useful. This is
Yeah, I
very
still think
close.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, just in America, we have more armies here. Uh, I don't think England. Yeah, England
No,
actually ended up getting force disbanded so much that they ended up being able to build.
I think we had a
Yeah.
bet, didn't we? We were betting on whether or not they built to screw me over or to screw you over.
Yeah,
I
because
don't
like,
think.
gosh, Army Portland could be really useful in its own right. I don't know for how long, but it could. Um,
Yeah.
I think I saw it as more important that I held on to my centers in the Caribbean to stop Spain winning.
yeah.
Whereas, yeah, I,
I
you know
think you
what I
made the
mean.
right decision.
We'll have to
Uh,
agree to disagree.
yeah.
Uh, okay. And then France is still alive as of this year, but probably not for much
Oh, did I
longer.
get a retreat into Anticosti in the end?
Yes,
No,
you
there's
did.
no retreat there.
Oh no, I did.
Oh
That
no,
was
yeah. Sorry, there's a
yeah,
retreat in because you're forced out of um, the thingy
ironic
one.
because it was a
Yeah.
NMR retreat that gave them the opening into Anticosti.
Yep.
And then,
Anticosti, the place where mistakes happen in North America.
yep. So that's builds. Um, and then this is the clean map. Now we don't slow down at all. We go into spring moves of 1649, and this time I'm actually going to start with Asia. Um,
It's the
in
convoy.
well, oh, I also forgot to mention I
Oh,
built army
sorry, yeah.
Philippines, and I
Oh
do
no,
put that
that convoy as
into
well.
fun wrong. Uh, I decide that I'm going to keep testing the Ming defenses here, and I just helped Tokugawa get into Yellow Sea. I think there was a conversation with Ming how, look, if you're going to need more armies to defend against Russia here, then you got to take off some fleets. We can do that. And I think they don't do that. They go into Fusan. But yeah. Also, Tokugawa's trying to convince Qing to disband Tsugaru fleet, kind of like my conversation with Ming about Yellow Sea, and they are unsuccessful. They do get into Hyacinth Way, and Russia, for their own part, is getting increasing success from the other side, which is concerning. Um, Ming, it seems, does stab Qing here to get Xiangyang, which is interesting. Um, they're also positioning themselves to maybe get Hohut. Don't know. Yeah, that's down here. This is the start of me in Portugal trying to like calm things down. I give Netherlands Batavia. In exchange, I get Banjarmassen, and I put myself into Flores Sea. I am attempting to hold Flores as part of the agreement, but it's tentative at worst, especially once I move Banda Sea away. There's nothing I can do to realistically stop Portugal from taking it if they want it. Then I'll move to the Med. I use the Ottoman retreat very well. Uh, I get my fleet in Barcelona out to Gulf of Leon. I get my fleet in Tunis to the Gulf of Gabes. Rome was probably always going to have to die here, though I think in hindsight, maybe it could go to Tuscany or something. I'm not too sure. Or maybe Ligurian. Don't know. But wherever I chose to retreat it, which was Ligurian, it was just more pressure on Rome, maybe a little bit on Savoy, and then also, hey, look, it's next to Marseille. Um, in Iberia, as part of the further de-escalation with Portugal, I'm trying to get out of Seville. This is all. I don't know if this was that much of a trick, but I do my moves to put my army in Madrid. Uh, this bounce works out for me. I don't really care that it went through. Me and Portugal make this three-way bounce in Rabat, and then Portugal is setting up on Canaries. I want the moves to go wrong essentially, so I don't lose Canaries, but I know I'm gonna have to probably get out of there. Um, me and me and Portugal say that I'll move this army to Sahara 2. I tell Abyssinia I'm moving my army to Sahara 2, and then I'd really like it if they can bounce me in Sahara 2.
I think I asked for that bounce because Portugal wanted me to move that unit away, and I was like, yeah, let's bounce that, so I don't need to move away and still have pressure on him. Even I don't have really pressure, but yeah, that's kind of what
Yeah, we
happened.
see here really quickly that like this was not the move we thought it was going to be. Portugal immediately just like gets you out, and you go to your Sahara spot, and we're just like, now I kind of feel a little bit like, wait, this army's out of position. This army's doing nothing, and Gadames is open. So like I'm paranoid by nature, or I guess I'm just cautious by nature, which can come off as paranoia. Um, yeah, let's just
Also,
quickly.
like
Or yeah,
that
what's
phase was like where I pitched Congo and Mali, or especially Congo, if it is an idea to like unite under one flag, and I take Congo's dots, so there's even a slight chance that we can slip into the range of Portugal and Spain here. Because I was like, I needed to build like 3 armies the year before. And
yeah?
I was like, what I gonna even do with that? Like, I can't move them south because there's like not much more space to fight Portugal. And I did not really wanted to go into Spain, as I said the whole time. So I was like, maybe I should step Congo here. But then I decided to like literally ask him if that's okay with them. And yeah, it was. And then we took over some dots year by like slowly. So he didn't need to disband too much. So England and Portugal still have troubles.
And then, of course, we get into my least favorite move that I attempted and failed to get. Um, the I every other year I'm going to make a mistake. So Caribbean Sea. This was supposed to be a convoy of Caracas to Barbados, with Cartagena going to Caracas here. Um, Honestly, no matter what happens, I'm thinking I walk away with New Curland. Um, because this is just a way to bounce it, and then have an army lined up to like get supported in, or to support a navy in, or have Guyana current here, so that way I could support myself into Barbados, and then or what was I thinking? I don't know what I was thinking actually. That doesn't work. I was hoping that this would go to Caribbean Sea actually, instead of going to Barbados. Oh well.
Is it like a visual error, or did you mess up the convoy?
No, no, no. It was literally just a mess up of the convoy order, because I was attempting to, at different points, I wanted to maybe bounce New Curland, which I thought was going to happen. And then I wanted Cartagena to go. Uh, at the start, I wanted to have Cartagena go to here, Caracas, maybe either bounce, hold, or core. Um, Bouncing would have made Barbados stay in there, and then Cartagena's move wouldn't work. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe instead I have Caracas be the one to go here, and I have Cartagena be the one to move up. That way I'm not being like inefficient. That seemed more efficient to me. I could
You
have
could have just
just
held with Caracas.
or I could have supported myself in. I thought supporting myself in was the most obvious thing, and that if I was going to like do anything, it would be this tapping me, and then this going to New Curland, and then everything stays in place.
Maybe, but I wasn't thinking about
Moves.
tactics too deeply.
That's the thing. I do think about them too deeply, and something like
If
that
if I
seems
don't know
too
what I'm gonna do,
simplistic.
how can you predict my moves?
Exactly. Which kind of like this is essentially saying that you think this is dead here. Fair. I'm focused on positioning. I tell Poland to go to Windward Passage. I'm mobilizing everything to put as many units up against the front line as I can. This
Yeah, I
is
probably should
really
have tapped
threatening.
Antilles current
I don't
and
know if
then
that's well, I mean that is a safe-ish move to make. Um, with Bahamas, there's a lot you could be tapping here. I don't know if it's fair to say that.
yeah.
Hell, I think maybe the more important thing would have been to tap Florida Current. because
That
that
wouldn't have
also seemed
worked.
well, it wouldn't have worked because of the support. But like, if we're talking about like what's more likely here, I mean, I don't have to support this to Mona Passage. I could have supported this to Antilles Current, you know, and that was a move
Mm.
that I had put in for a while, but I was worried about Guadalupe. I didn't know what Guadalupe was doing. If Barbados, this fleet was holding both of these, and Guadalupe was still something I was like, well, what if it goes to Mona Passage? What if it goes to Caribbean Sea? Um, I mean, Sargasso Sea could have done stuff too, but I don't know. All that is to say that like I end up with a pretty good line on most of your centers for fall, even if this
Yes.
wasn't planned on. Um, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and my de-escalation with Aymara actually like works pretty well. Uh, Portugal of all people messes up my move here. Um, and that means that Nazca Ridge dies. I should have moved Nazca Ridge out, but this was like disappointing because not only did I not have any chance of getting a Xura because I would have had 3 units on it, um, while also threatening Pano and getting back into Quechua, like this is not you can't make progress against this. So at least it made the piece more solid, but yeah, I don't know. Portugal really sabotaged me there.
Did
And
you
it
ask them to
wasn't.
tap the other one?
I think it was just supposed to tap this.
Yeah.
And because they didn't do that, it really messed things up. They said they needed to do that because of their relationship with Aymara, which they were trying to like keep it friendly until the Dutch were dead, and it's like more fuel for me to like be suspicious of them going for a solo and stuff like that. Like I don't know if going for a solo is the right way to say that, but just like they want solo chances even in this position. I want solo chances in this position. Like so a little mistake like this, which yeah, it would have been nice if Spain did better moves against Aymara and we could work on this guy together. But like, what if I'm able to convince Aymara I'm on their side and they move things away from me more and I get my centers and Spain doesn't? Like, I don't know.
Mm.
The yeah. Athapasca, would you like to start with the North American stuff?
Sure. So I think in the south, I think nothing actually happens. There's a bounce over Catawba, and there's a bounce in Cherokee. No progress is actually made there. But we don't. Importantly, that's set up in a way that we can't accidentally disband Shoshone's unit, because if we did that, Shoshone would be functionally dead. So that is avoided in our moveset. Further north, though, it's largely England swimming against the tide. Uh, Portland is free. England can't
As
defend
usual.
it. Seneca, England can't defend it. And it's all setting up for more units to follow through and be lined up for the fall, basically. Um, we have uh, I support hold Inuit uh, because I'm nice and friendly like that. Meanwhile, they get back
No.
into Anticosti, and I think that's a forced disband as well on the fleet, because this is really the term where it's all collapsing um, in terms of all these eastern
Yeah.
centres.
I'm imploding.
Yeah, I think the one important thing diplomatically, though, is this is the turn Spain basically comes to me and says, "I want you to stab Inuit this turn," and I basically tell you no, because I don't want to deal with all of the Inuit fleets on the east coast if I do stab them, because I know the moment I do that, they'll swing around and help England. So
Hmm.
I say no to that. Toku also asked about me stabbing Inuit this turn. I don't know how coordinated that was, but you did it within hours of each other, so I assumed it was.
I think
Uh,
I shared my concern about that with Tokugawa, and Tokugawa then asked about that as well because they
Fair.
are not disinterested in these centers here.
Yeah, I know
Um,
Toku has an interest in the Inuit centers over there. And yeah, I basically say I'm not doing it this year because I'm worried about uh, just wrapping up the English war because I don't want to start another war when I've not finished the first one.
No idea.
And yeah, I think
I
that is
accept the logic
vintage.
for what it is, by the way. You do
Yeah,
reassure me because my pitch was that like with with England being close to being wrapped up here, I am worried about what these units like do and what projects they pursue going forward. And I think it's very reasonable in this situation if you're me. Um, Even if I'm uh holding off Portugal or I'm like if I get
mm,
destabilized, like Portugal can get a new lease on life. I don't know how much Athapasca really cares if it's really easy to get my centers, and I'm not making it particularly difficult, to be honest.
I care enough in the sense that if I stab you, I recognize that if that could very quickly become a slog. If you win Caribbean quickly, you've got a lot of fleets with not a lot else to do, and that makes my life hell holding on to any of these coastal centers in North America, which then means there's no real counterbalance to Portugal running away with it, especially if you're focused on me. That just means Portugal can stab you whenever they want. And I think that sort of guides a lot of my thinking into this late game, which is why I'm.
Where would Portugal actually stab him from?
I mean, we have
You've got
South America.
mainland Europe,
South
but
and
that's well
South America.
defended. South America, there's also there's loads of units down South America. I feel because they're
Yes,
both
but it's
defending
Without
it.
the arrows and stuff, I mean, this is what it looks like. It's true that
Uh,
there are a lot of units,
I
but like
suppose,
it's not that much, especially along this coast
but
and
like
along
you're
and
here.
both wary against Aymara
yeah,
anyway, so
the
you're
thing is,
defending for you know.
but it's also the fact that those fleets are going to be pressured to come up against me, so that would be drawing them out of that theatre. There's also the potential of armies needing to be
Uh,
convoyed north to to contest me. If I go to
There's a
war,
world where I can
yeah,
convoy.
yeah. Well, there's a world you can
yeah.
technically convoy, yes, but it's also the fact that in a world where I'm attacking Spain, South America is where units come from to try reinforce the Spanish line, which means it becomes understaffed there.
I
The
can
other
see
place
that.
Portugal can make progress is over in Asia, um, with all of
Mm,
this. Because at
Where
this point,
the units are most likely to come off of, especially in this northern area.
yeah,
I, I'm also aware at this point that Toku is not as loyal as they make it out to be to Spain, and I'm aware that if um, Spain starts disbanding in this region, there's a decent chance that Toku stabs, and then the line that Portugal has there, that Spain has against Portugal, also crumbles there.
you're saying if you stabbed Spain, Spain could basically collapse everywhere.
Potentially,
That
it's
sounds great. Let's do it.
well, no,
Why didn't you do it?
because I looked at the stab and I only get about 10 centers max off of Spain. That means there's about 50 centers that other people are getting, and I'm not about that.
I remember like
Yeah, but
uh
they would almostly be, you know, uh, I would live. I would have lived.
Mm,
No, I would have still won the Caribbean. I would have finished that off and then went back
yeah.
to doing my duties. Like it's a valid point, and it's the one that like I was very aware of the whole time. It's the case I made to Athapasca. Always. I didn't, and by showing that I was a good steward of my empire and that I wasn't going to use it against you in any sort of way, I would hope that gives you enough incentive to not dismiss my own security concerns. Um,
Yeah, I think at this point we were also both kind of fatiguing out on where this was going.
yeah. I'll say that I'm glad it ended when it did because, as you can tell, with how long this has gone on for, imagine this was like 2 months. This is like, or sorry, this is like 3 months of us doing imp dip, and this is I'm just these AARs have only been like a few hours for like 3 days, and I feel a little fatigued at this point as well. Um, is there anything in particular that we need to look to? I see Mecca got taken.
Yeah, I finally get into Arabia. Other than that, I think nothing special. Some armies move towards Sahara, so I can.
Oh, that's right. This is the turn that just as Austria is breaking me. Sorry if I'm interrupting, but
Or
this is as Austria is breaking me around Rome, and I'm getting driven back into the Med. Ottomans disbands one turn, and then the next turn, Sweden and Russia move against Austria here, and I
Yeah,
celebrate that. Um, Austria was the last thing keeping me hemmed in the Mediterranean. I've always wanted Mediterranean dominance this game. It's like because of this contest, one of my most safe source of expansions was locked off to me. And so now this is just this is nice. It's just nice. And I could begin convincing Austria to walk away that I only want Naples, Genoa, and Rome, that I'm ending with 2 out of 3 of them last year. I only need this last one. So surely you can find it in your heart to disband these fleets to keep your armies on the board and defend every other center of your empire. Um, yes. It only works somewhat,
Hmm.
but um, any other big things we need to mention? Um,
The convoy.
where's the convoy?
The convoy that looks like a meme move, but it's
Oh,
only somewhat a meme move
we have
because
Rockall
it
Rise,
would have actually
English
worked.
Channel,
I
Greenland,
I convoyed
Kara,
Toku to
Laptev,
Normandy.
Chuchki, MPO2. Oh, that's how you
And
beat
then
it.
if you look at Russia and Sweden, they're not actually doing anything.
Mm,
And Inuit, they could have all convoyed and nothing would have changed.
wow.
The only thing is that Inuit on the I think Pacific. Look at what Inuit's doing there. I think they moved into Hawaii or
As
something.
part of our arranged bounces, but they were supposed to do it with NEC, not NPO2.
Yeah, and then Chuck GC was support holding it for some reason. Doesn't look like it needs
Maybe
support
out of
holding
worry
particularly.
about me and Athapasca. I don't know. That feels a little
Yeah,
flawed, I think.
but couldn't we have just got Tokugawa into Normandy?
So we
Like,
can
this
go
was
visit
probably the
Paris.
only year
True.
that I could actually spare those two fleets. From
Yeah.
because like they
but
couldn't
wouldn't
have
it
helped
bounce
against
anyway? Because
Sweden.
Normandy is holding.
no,
No, because Ghent's
No, because I
supporting.
was against
Ah,
supporting.
okay.
That's a little
shall we?
unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, shall we not have fun in this game? No, no fun moves allowed.
No, we've had fun moves in ATC, me and Shiftyfly. This is not the game for fun convoys and trips
Yes,
to
it
Paris.
is.
I'm pretty sure when people were proposing these fun convoys, I just went around this game going, yeah, I promised all the support of all my fleets for them at a time when I have no fleets.
I heard about it and I
Oh.
dismissed it as
Yeah.
impossible, and I was not proven wrong.
I
I
mean,
think
it
that
was
it was a
very
lot
possible.
more. I didn't see this route.
It
I
was,
discounted
yeah.
the northern route, and
That was
I was looking at the
Toku explained
southern
it to
route,
me.
and I'm like, there is no southern route, but that
Yeah,
makes a lot more sense. And actually, this is surprisingly possible. I just wish
yeah,
that Sweden and Russia took this more seriously, I guess.
I
yeah.
mean, you can also go north around Arctic Sea if you go as well, if you go over North America.
Oh,
Oh
well, yeah,
yeah,
then you only need Inuit, right?
Yeah.
Well, you get
but
stuck around Greenland. No, you could go,
no
like,
No,
Greenland.
you can go over, yeah, up and over.
and the thing is
But
that The only thing you
Inuit
need to
seemed the
do
least
is the
willing.
only thing is if like your fleets and this is like maybe confusing for people watching, but like the only thing you need to do when you're in your order is to type for that fleet that you want to use to support Toku is just convoy move that like Edo to Normandy. And if they're using your fleet, they'll use your fleet. If they aren't using your fleet, then there's no harm in that. What like and as long as there's
And
a
you can
valid
support hold it
route
as
with
well.
fleets, then like you're fine. And you can have a lot of redundancies as well. It's okay as long as the route is complete, it'll go through.
Hmm.
That's the fun part about that.
Yeah.
So literally
Is
all
there
this needs to do
convoy
is
kidnapping in the way the bot is set up?
the only thing I know about convoy kidnapping is that you can't like tell the army to go to someplace different. You can just maybe have it like use your fleet to do it, which is not even that
Yeah.
effective. Uh,
No, but it's if you were intending to bounce, you could make them swap places instead. If
Interesting.
there's two armies next to each other and they both attack each other, so if you like zoom into a place I can use for an example,
I'm gonna think about Naples
maybe
and Sicily here. Like say there's a fleet in Tyrrhenian Sea, fleet in Ionian Sea, army in Naples, army in Sicily.
they're not
Sicily uses
adjacent, so it
that
wouldn't
one.
work.
No,
This is oh.
But if
you
you look at Tripoli and Cairo, say if Tripoli and Cairo want to bounce each other, actually no, that's also a bad idea.
No, it wouldn't
Cairo
work
and
because the fleet.
Levant,
Well, I understand Levant Sea is just one fleet, but also I
Levantine Sea could
understand that
convoy,
like the move you're
but
putting
then
in
you'd
for an
swap best
army
seas.
using a convoy is different from like an attack
I don't
move.
think so.
No, because I have to use convoy moves. I can't just like type it in like this goes to that. I have to do like
I always
this
did it.
CM goes to that.
No, I think I just did it as a normal move when I put mine in.
Oh, I don't know. I'm spreading this
I'll
information on
check.
the internet.
I'll check. Um, uh, duh, duh.
Well,
shall we move forward to fall while
Yeah.
yes.
this
So
goes on?
this is fall, and I will begin with the Caribbean because Shiftyfly is distracted, and I can.
No, yeah. I just put it as a dash and it worked.
Jeez. Well, I end up
Okay.
supporting
Anyway,
myself into Barbados here. I tap New Curland. I go to Puerto Rico. Surprisingly, it doesn't have support, but I was ready to tap the support if it received it. I get Poland to support me into Antilles Current. I used Florida Current to put myself into Bahamas, and I get Augustine out into Florida Current. I remember thinking, man, it'd be nice if I can put Bahamas Channel into Bahamas. Not really. It's not particularly important one way or the other. Um, what does happen is that Sargasso Sea does end up putting itself into Bermuda. Puerto Rico ends up putting itself into Barbuda during retreats, and Barbados ends up putting itself in the Gulf of Paria after getting forced out of Barbados. And I'm set up well to take New Curland, Barbuda, and Bermuda in short order, in any case. North America, we do the bounce again in Catawba. Nearly identical sort of moves with me and Athapasca. I'm fairly certain I think to myself, maybe I can just copy and paste these moves in, but I never end up doing that. I end up always typing these manually, even if they are like the same. Same with the bouncing in Hawaii. This is all arranged with Inuit and Tokugawa. Tokugawa doesn't want to lose Hawaii. I don't want Inuit to have Hawaii. Inuit doesn't want me to have Hawaii. So we agree to keep bouncing here. Um, this would have to do with Athapasca, so we'll just quickly have Athapasca explain what's going on.
Yeah, I think in the south I do ask if you can use Gulfstream. You say no. I basically say
Yeah.
fair enough.
In this, I could have, but
because
I didn't
yeah.
know. You know.
Yeah, no, I ask about it, and you want to use it for Bermuda or Sargasso Sea, which is kind of fair enough, but also you're not helping me get into centres, so that's sad if you're me. Um, But yeah, that it basically just means here that Shoshone is still a one army, 2 cents of power with no cause, which is funny. Further north, we have I cut the support that Boston has, so it can't brace. So I get Boston as well as Portland this year. Estuary goes into Mohawk to backfill it. Seneca taps because even if England forces me out of it, I have the retreat into Philadelphia, and at that point, it's all falling apart. I support myself into Quebec just to keep that safe, and yeah, everyone's friends.
Except for
Inuit
me.
is, yeah, well, colonials aren't popular around these parts, okay? Unless they're Spain.
This is always North America. They hate
Spain's not.
France, they hate England, they hate Netherlands, they like Spain.
If
Hey,
Spain
I
knows
was
how to
fine with
play it,
Netherlands.
yeah.
I was fine with Netherlands there, but they left before I got to the East
Oh
Coast.
yeah, to be fair, Netherlands is. If you
They
see
were
a
not.
Netherlands by the time the regionals roll up to the colonials in North America, that's a
I
very lucky Netherlands.
I would have been all about Dutch America because that just sounded funny. But yeah, Inuits getting into stuff and that entire position's collapsing. I think that's all the main stuff. I'm still not stabbing Inuit. Why would I do that? They're my friend.
Yet.
All right. With that said, we're gonna move over to Med, where wait, yeah, I lose canaries here. Oh, I do lose canaries here. I have this interaction with Rabat still. Portugal goes to Cadiz Bay, which I'm not too excited about. This makes me feel that they're really trying to find a way to like get leverage on me. Um, the England does the convoy again. Yeah, but it doesn't work. Um, Sweden, I don't think this was the most effective use of these fleets, but I think he suspected this unit to be used on London. This could have gone to London, essentially. Uh, but instead, he tries and slams into the Low Countries, which doesn't quite work. Um, yeah, he takes my advice and goes into Austria full force. Just all these armies go chaotically into the German centers. At the same time, I make my way into Marseille, which is the one time I take a center off the French mainland. Smile. I'm actually their best friend. Um, the Austria puts themselves back into Naples. I think I try and infiltrate because I wasn't suspecting the Ottomans to still be helping Austria here, but that just ends up with me losing Ionian Sea, with another fleet getting on my line in Naples, and just I don't like how many fleets there are against this many fleets. So, in the east, Russia and Austria are like having a back and forth, I think, on retreats. Yeah, Austria actually loses that army. They lose Krakow. So they can't even make the choice to disband some fleets in the Med. Because I actually think they grew that turn off of, yeah, they stayed even off of growing from me. So that's a little unfortunate. Uh, at this point, we can talk about you and I, Abyssinia.
Think nothing special here. Like I just backfill Mecca, take Riyadh from Portugal, take Zanzibar down from Portugal, and yeah, trying to work with Congo together to get stuff done south.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I did not expect to get the core through, but yeah, Portugal tapping my core. I get into Mascarene Sea, which could be very good for the next year,
But
but we
Portugal's in
come to that.
Somali Basin at the same
Yeah, but I
time.
got builds. Like I got a lot of builds. I can build Fleet Marek. I can. Like, I did not care that much about that fleet.
Gotcha. Um, looking around, I don't think there's. Oh, this is the turn where Ming tells me that they want to throw to me. And as a result, I change up all my orders in East Asia to capitalize on that fact. It's partly why I stabbed the Dutch here the way I did. It's why I decided to keep Flores and betray Portugal in our agreement. It's why I don't. It's why I go for my Marseille the way I do. And beyond that, I mean, the fumbles over Italy like counterbalances that. I don't get Sambas, but I get Fon. No, I'm supposed to get Fon Rang, but then I have the wrong order in for South China Sea, and I never correct it. It should go into Fon Rang, and because of that, I don't actually take it in the fall. I get into Ayutthaya with Ming support. Ming gets force disbanded out of Chiang Mai. I think they could have retreated that unit, but I think they just don't. I put myself into Hanoi, Hainan, Macau, and then I go for a mommy off of Toku. Meanwhile, I was saying to Toku, yeah, I'll support you into Nanjing. I will, you can totally deal with Fusan here on your own. And I think all of that's a little frustrating for Toku, as well as this fleet here. In hindsight, I don't mind that I frustrated Toku, but I remember this being like a move that I really didn't like that I had to do. But I remember saying that if I didn't go, like, if it was the difference of getting the center and not, then I wanted to have gotten this center. Because Ming throwing to me is so many centers that I wasn't planning on, that I'm thinking, is it possible to impunity here? And I get really close. My delivery of this information could be more excited, but Portugal was always within range, and I really couldn't. Though the difference is not as bad as it sounds. The difference, by the way, the difference is Donnie and the Dutch hold. That's it. And had I gotten Donnie, had Portugal not had that, had I helped the Dutch continue to hold here, had I potentially kept any one of these centers or guessed better around Italy, I could have been. That could have been a solo right there. So it's not like the worst. Actually, Fawnarang. If I had done Fawnarang correctly, I wouldn't even need to gotten any of the guesses in the Atlantic right. The difference is Donnie, Fawnarang. And maybe also having my moves around Macau go better. Like, the solo was not that far off, but we still fell off. In fact, if I betrayed Poland, that's even better. But everything
I wouldn't
else.
call that better.
Hello, Poland. I'm guessing that's
Hi.
Poland. So yeah, that's my fall in 49. How's everyone? So we went through Athapasca, we went through Abyssinia, England. Point
Hello.
out like what we need to see from your fall here, because we are trying to.
So
Yeah.
India, I think I'm not sure what's happening in India. Zoom in a bit more. Oh yeah, so Portugal's going convoying back into the continent to eventually take some centers from me. I'm supporting Russia with Kabul because I don't like how Ming is keeping Sassuan, and I also am hoping that they will stab Sweden at some point, because I think we talked about that earlier on. It ends up that they don't ever, which is a shame. But then again, over in Europe, I am quite surprised at how well England is situated to defend from Sweden, which I think is probably a design feature, but I feel like I hold out really well here, really
Yeah.
consistently.
The fact of the matter is that the only centers at stake are like 5, maybe 6. Only 6, and then the Low Countries 3. Like, but
There's quite a few,
yeah,
and it's
but
my
it's also
capital.
a lot to try and attack with just Southern Bight, North
Oh, I
Sea.
see what you mean.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna get funneled into this choke point, and a
Hmm.
war will not end fast. If province density makes wars go really quickly, stuff like this makes stalemates really easy.
Yeah.
We can also see Sweden is helping themselves to some Austria right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
yeah,
Not
the
the
attention
friendship.
is divided. In Africa as well, I think that's the exact opposite. I think I lose all of my centers in Africa
Yeah, I
really
think that is
quickly.
the
I
year finally Congo makes progress. Yeah.
I do send this move
Yeah.
set to the Congo, and they do it exactly as I intended them to.
I think I did him. I have like a chat where I did the
I feel
same
like
move
it's a
move
fairly
set for
obvious
him.
move set though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember I did the same move
Um,
set for him, but
although I do get they don't cover all of my retreats, so there's a path that I can go through to Gurma and then Oyo, Hausa, and then once I'm in Hausa states, that's really dangerous for Congo because that army is just a nuisance. And I think in Caribbean I've got another nuisance fleet in Gulf of Paria, I think it's called. Um, sort of in South America, uh, roundabout by a lot of Spanish centers.
Next to New Courland.
Yeah. Um,
Sorry.
yeah, there it is. I retreat into Gulf of Paria, and then I can cause a bunch of chaos. Oh, and there's the retreat into Gurma, like I said.
These English retreats are
Oh, and I
interesting.
managed to get Kangaba from Mali. I think that was Portugal's idea. But apart from that, yeah, it's going really badly.
Yep.
I think that's all from me. Poland, do you want to say some stuff?
Uh, well, I don't. Well, I supported Spain into Auntie's current, I think.
You did this turn, yeah.
That's it. That's what I did.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said about the level of trust we have where you've left the center and you're trusting that I don't go into it.
Well, if you wanted me dead, you'd kill me.
Exactly. It's the
The,
best
the Polish opinion is whatever Spain says.
it's the best catch 22. Except like you you have to trust me.
Yeah.
Ironically, the worst thing you can do for yourself is to not follow through on any one of my instructions. Um, because it's not like
Well,
England's gonna leave you on the board or something.
No.
Better
shall
than
we
I can.
move to winter then?
Yes.
Because a
So,
few things happen.
um, where do we go? Where are we thinking about winter? Um,
America has some fun things happen here.
yes.
Oh yeah, that's when I give up on America. Because I've
Question.
got like
That's really
I
nice.
have 6 units defending 3 centers, and I just go, you know what? I think I say to Ute, you can take Norfolk, see how long Spain lets you live.
We'll get back to that.
uh, was never about how long Spain lets them live. 2 fleets from Inuit in Alaska,
Um,
1 fleet in northern Arctic, 3 armies from Athapasca, notably in the ones that are farthest away from Inuit, more or less.
yeah,
2
okay.
armies and 1 fleet from Sweden, 3 armies from Austria because they've been disbanding and now they rebuild. Um, I make a huge force in Europe for my builds. I think this was. Did I have +8?
Yeah, you go +8, and everyone's terrified.
With maybe like 9 builds because one of my units died. I have Fleet Quito, I have
I think at
Army
that
Velo.
point, like everyone was sure you're just gonna solo now, but
What with the with the Ming doing what they're doing, and then I put down 2 fleets in the Philippines because I'm addicted to trying to
armies.
generate armies in Asia here. The Ming are still willing to throw to me, but they are emphasizing that I have to get the math right. I keep going and I keep telling them, yeah, I got the math right this time. Keep giving me centers. But no, in truth, this turn I'm like, I actually don't think that it's possible, so I will be trying to give you give you some room to breathe. But I want to keep these centers. And they are like, okay. I go to Tokugawa and I'm like, I'm actually gonna give you back Amami because I need you as my ally. And this was just I wasn't here to take this from you permanently. Just if it ended the game, it ended the game. If it didn't, then I leave and I return to our order set. Um, oh yeah, this is the clean map. Was there any other interesting builds? I think Portugal. That's retreats. Portugal built Arme del Goa. They built a fleet in Rio, and that's it. Yeah. Okay. Um, so spring moves, and I see the first thing that I wish I could have predicted, but in what world would I ever think that this would happen? Um, anyone else have anything to say before I go into what I'm noticing?
Um,
Well, there's a lot of hold orders in Europe.
Yeah.
I think like
I
this
don't
this
notice what
phase
you're
was
saying.
like a big part in my game from here because I think in winter you basically came to me in Portugal and were like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna solo. Let's just win at 4. And
Yeah.
I don't think anyone seriously believes you at that point, though.
yeah, I was like a little confused and was like, okay, I think we can do that, but no matter what happens here, I need some African centers of you now,
Yeah.
and that's why I
My year is receiving messages from people basically asking me, "Do you think you can be within 25% of Spain at the end of the year?"
but
Uh,
especially around Portugal, I stop my aggressive moves towards him, and we come to like an agreement on how to shuffle our fleets around East Africa, and especially in Arabia, I just core my units because, yeah, I thought, okay, we can move forward for that plan to win with 4 people, and that's why I didn't try anything against Portugal here. Even I think I could have tried something like there's some nice convoys to Madagascar and stuff like that, but whatever.
The
That
I don't see what you're talking about, by the way.
so
I don't know
yeah,
what
it's
you're
like
on
way
about.
too far away. He needs to zoom in, but
Yeah.
yeah, sorry. That you guys on the Discord stream will have a worse quality than OBS is picking up, but
Okay.
yeah, like this is
yeah.
the
So
convoy
like
that needs to
these
visit.
fleet movements and stuff were agreed with Portugal, because like Spain was coming to us and said like stop fighting. We can just go for 4-player impunity, and even I think I have some nice moves in Arabia and around Madagascar, and if I fight with Congo together, I can get South Africa as well. But at that point, I were like, okay, if I get a win here with 4 people, I just gonna take it. Why should I try more when it's my first game ever? Just take what I get. But as I said, I did
Yeah.
not believe Spain completely. That's why I'm telling him I gonna definitely move into North Africa and at least give me Gdames and Tripoli, so I'm gonna be sure that you're not soloing this year, because obviously I was kind of scared about that one.
Yeah, and from my
Oh,
perspective,
Austria NMRs.
the
yeah.
Austrian NMR this
Yeah, that was
season,
weird.
it was weird because I
Don't actually
play
do much.
aggressively safe. Which does mean that like I can't take advantage of this at all. In my world, I see Savoy guaranteeing not only taking Genoa but killing Genoa, and so I have to actually, and with Rome potentially tapping Ligurian Sea, so I have to, nearly always doing that, by the way. So I have to like leave Ligurian, leave Genoa via Ligurian with support of Gulf of Leon, which means that I don't support myself into Savoy, and that this conga line fails. Um, I have zero pressure on any of the French dots this year. Uh, I am not in a position to defend Genoa in the fall, which, if Austria comes back, will not be great. uh, I do. This was always going to happen, and I even prepare the tap on the support that I suspect would have been thrown. I don't suspect Rome throws a support. I expect Rome to tap. Um, but I get into Naples. At least I get into Naples. Maybe Austria and him are the retreat. Oh wait, they come back and they get out of there too. So that's not fun. The the Russians take better advantage of this than I do. They get into Targov East, and not only get into Targov East, I think they kill Targov East. Sweden gets into Strasbourg and Nuremberg, which is a lot. They get into Silesia as well and Saxony. So actually in a position to hold Nuremberg, though Strasbourg is a little bit more isolated here. Yeah, that's like the defining thing over there. I start
I'm a bit
Korntanger.
surprised at how Sweden seems to be leaving me alone, actually, with his armies. He's not
Uh,
going for the Low Countries. He's going
yeah,
for Austria.
he's in a position to take Utrecht here, and not only take Utrecht, but maybe kill it. But that would require a little bit more effort. And there's so many centers in Austria that are
Yeah.
open that will not stay open if any of these armies attempt to come up. Um, so that I understand that logic. The This is a bit of a, you know, a little bit of a joke. Like I don't know if this was going to happen, but it's worth a shot. I think it would have been far more useful to try and put these fleets into the British Isles themselves. Um, but that's just me. Um, yeah, I shouldn't be mean. It's not a joke. It's a serious attempt to try and get position on Edinburgh, but I don't think you start with Edinburgh. I think you slip into York and go from there. Though maybe that's hindsight. Uh,
I think this might have been the year that Inuit offers me advice on. He's like starts leaking information of what Sweden's going to do to me. So that's why I support Iceland Basin.
oh no! And why did he do that?
Well, if you look at North America,
No, we don't need to look at North America.
um,
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah,
yeah,
why would Inuit stab their good friend Athapasca?
um, well, you see,
Don't look at that bit.
as
But
an Inuit player myself, when it gets to this point in the game, it's essentially kill or be killed.
I didn't feel good about this stab.
And I'm suddenly acutely aware that this video is going out on the internet, so I really hope no one I play with in the future sees this.
Yeah,
What are you gonna tell them? That by 1650, you're like this is an inevitable war? I think most people take that and think that it's an inevitable war in like 2 or 3 years. The fact that like any
I
alliance is like guaranteed to hold this long, I think is actually an exception to how cutthroat Imp Dip usually is.
I think
That's a
I
fair
think
point.
I think the point here and why this happened now is partly a response to what happened last year with Ming,
Oh,
because
yes.
when Spain goes +8 and basically it it's partially regrets about potentially me not doing anything last year or But it also then comes back to when I originally stabbed Spain. Before I stabbed you, England, no one else wanted to help, including Inuit, which basically led to this position. But yeah, I had a look at the border this year and what it would look like to try stop Spain, and actively going towards Spain still doesn't look great in terms of the amount of centres we could take. I, however, figured out that I could go like +6 if I successfully stabbed Inuit and took the centres from you, and that got me to about 92%, I think it is,
Yeah.
which basically meant that Spain couldn't escape unless they got,
Mhm.
I think it was +11. I think the maths came to, which I was relatively confident that Spain wouldn't be able to do. So unfortunately, yes, I had to stab Inuit, but we made it to 1650, as you say. And yeah, it's a pretty brutal stab because yeah, they're moving to fight Spain, and I'm moving into their centres. Because yeah, I'm in one and I have 2 guarantees in the full, and I'm lined up towards um Papa what Papachinios or whatever it's called. I still can't pronounce it
Papinaccio.
after this time.
Papa Papinachwa.
Thank you. Uh, yeah, but while we're here,
Choi.
there is one. Yeah, there is one fun thing, and that is if we go look at what Shoshone's up to.
Shoshone,
Uh,
what's going on, bro? Go to Catalba. This is my bad. I didn't tell Shoshone directly what to do this phase, and you know, they sort of took their own liberty with it. Not this
Worked
isn't
out for
too
them.
bad. Yeah, well, look, it worked out for them. Like Shoshone now only has one Athapasca army on the border of Catawba. They might even be able to slip into Norfolk if they so choose. There's no Athapascan army
Yeah,
around
and they can
Norfolk
still
here,
retreat into Catawba.
and they can still retreat into Catawba. So what? Apparently, Shoshone got sick and was unable to plug in their order because they were, quote, bedridden for 22 out of 24 of the hours that they had for retreat phase.
No.
Not great.
yeah.
And
Somehow,
I
by the way,
presume
I get
you.
blamed for this by some people who really don't like me this game.
Who was blaming you?
I think it was just like a sort of like I can't remember who exactly it was, but it was because of things that happened later on. Um, I'm to blame for not only the
Oh,
Dutch dying, the Polish dying, spoilers, but also the Shoshone dying, and that I'm no better than any other power. And it's like, okay, I don't know any power that would let these guys run around as OPMs.
I'll try and find who said that
I
actually.
mean, I will say, when this happened, you messaged me afterwards going, "Oh yeah, you say that yeah, England made their offer about giving them Norfolk." I did notice the timestamps on that you sent was before the deadline, so I wasn't that impressed with it.
Well,
Um,
it wasn't that like he would go to
yeah,
Norfolk via this way. It was that he would go to Norfolk
yeah,
via this way. I thought
I'm
that was
aware.
fairly obvious.
Yeah, but you still weren't telling me about it beforehand. But no, I think also it was at this point, even if they didn't disband, I was probably killing them. Uh, because, yeah, at the end of the day, don't bite the hand that feeds you. I guess is the thing.
Yeah. The thing is that like I had said that this was a rogue. This is a rogue move. I did not like
Yeah.
tell them to do this. Nor did they tell me they were doing this. And so our management of this little guy did not help. This increased.
This has been me. Could this have
Oh,
been my influence?
So yeah, England. Yeah. This is what you achieved. Uh,
Did
As
England
in,
tell
no,
them to go via this way and that to like
England
go into?
I
didn't tell.
I didn't
No,
I didn't say anything. I just said you can have Norfolk. See how long Athapasca and Spain let you keep it.
yeah, no one
So
told them to go to Tello.
I was just hoping that they would go rogue and make some trouble for you, which it looks like they are
I mean,
somewhat
it doesn't
to an
really
extent.
It
impact.
was it was and,
Yeah,
like in the same way that
Potentially.
like me running over an animal on the road would like cause me some trouble. Like I am troubled by this, but I don't think it was the effect you
yeah,
thought it would have.
yes, yes. Spain basically disavows all knowledge of it, and I say that's fine, but I'm killing them now
And I
because
agree. I'm like that's
in,
completely understandable. They stopped you from getting
yeah,
Norfolk this year.
it's
Um
like in your own words, they went rogue. Like if you try to then say I can't do this, you're taking their side. At which point I no longer believe that they've gone rogue, and I start going, sure they have, and then armies start moving south.
And that's not
Like
something we can tolerate, especially when I'm trying my best to keep public opinion on my side. Which, by the way, I don't know. I feel like I am at the best
How
scale
the
of
hell
public
would you do
opinion.
that at this point in the game?
I don't know. For my position, like it's not about like absolutely like I'm very popular. It's that I think that for any Spain in my position, I am the most popular. I managed to be the most popular I could be in these circumstances with multiple solo attempts under my belt, with uh many stabs, small and large, Aymara included in like so many of those. Um
Do you have
just
like my
But yeah,
early game in
I
your
think
end
like
game?
Spain is actually right. Like if Athapasca starts moving into Spain, I start attacking North Africa, and Austria don't do nothing. Like there's actually a world where Spain
yeah, you're
can start losing, and then maybe Tokugawa gonna flip, and yeah, it's
yeah,
gonna
your
go
problem is
spiral.
no one wants to be the first one to move, basically.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
and I think part of that is that like I never stopped talking to you guys. I never gave you a reason why I'm not gonna fulfill the utility that um you want me to in this position. You want me to
If
keep
the
Portugal down. You want me to, be any if I'm still of use to you. I'm convincing you of that.
if the opportunity ever arises, Spain, please come spec me in my next game and give me advice.
I absolutely will.
I
By the
need
way,
to like develop my late game and mid game, I think.
I'll say this: this blitz is going to be very interesting. I don't know if anyone noticed. I actually got slotted on Russia, so I will be the last Russia game of B1 point or just I think B1.1.
Oh,
So pre-tundra
is that
Russia.
tomorrow?
That's
is
tomorrow.
Russia a
Ah,
co-op
good
or
luck.
just you?
Russia is a one power or one player power. So
Okay.
it's I'm a little
If you
worried,
win the
but
blitz, I swear I will come and steal your fridge.
I'm not gonna win the
I don't know
blitz.
what to say there. Do it.
I have plans to do well in the blitz. I don't think I will win the blitz. Uh, I think that the Colonials are just too strong. I think one of them are essentially
Yeah,
set to win, and given everything I've seen, it's probably going to be Portugal or Dutch.
but should you, I will like in all of my sign up forms, I'll be putting like any players you do not want to play with. Yes, casual USA.
I might listen. I'm not. I don't even have the highest elo out of anybody because I've never soloed a game. Uh, I've just, I've just been kind of a shoe-in for these impunities. Uh, I don't know.
We'll put you on
Should we
Sweden next. It's
should we
fine.
go to the next? Yeah, before we get too sidetracked and make this into a
Yes,
5 hour
yes,
long
yes,
video.
yes. So
Spring.
this was spring. We already talked about spring, or were we still talking about things we were noticing in spring?
Or we go for fall.
I think we're good
Oh,
for.
hang on. This is the Can you zoom in on Africa for a bit?
You caused a lot of chaos.
Well, yes, but look at the retreats.
Oh wow. You might have killed.
Wait, what?
Isn't this the one where you
I don't
like
know.
got the Congo into like you did
I'm not
a good
sure.
job this season?
I feel like at one point I had an opportunity to retreat to Hausa, but I think I don't know, can't remember. Maybe I got confused. My bad.
It's all right. I'll say that like in South America, this line is very contentious. Partly because I'm telling Portugal that we need to break this line now, or
What year are you in right
Aymara.
now?
This is 1650. So remember, me, you, and Portugal,
Spring, still spring. Okay.
we're all agreeing to like the joint impunity at this point. But I think just with me being as far ahead as I am, and Portugal needing to like convince Aymara to essentially like Portugal thought that Aymara would actually throw to them, which I think is a very bad assumption to make of any player, and I should not be relied on for growth. They stab me for Galapagos. They prevent me from getting into Peru Basin. They, uh, as a result, like they mess up my move into Chiquitano, which would have finally worked and would have finally put pressure on Aymara and Dots. Um, but no.
Think like the same I wanted to attack North Africa. It was like him stopping you from stalling. So yeah.
Yeah. I would I'm being transparent. I'm being like, look, you guys think I'm a solo threat. I disagree. I'm willing to make some steps to like give you concessions and be quick about me giving you those concessions so that I can go back to being like the stable power that I can be. I still have a little bit of growth from the Caribbean here that I can draw from. I can still try and squeeze a bit more out of Asia, and I'll make it to impunity. But we need to be quick and reach the conclusion to this game where all of us are also at impunity and not at my expense.
Yeah. Otherwise, Sweden and Russia gonna slip in.
Right, right, and we'll talk about this when we get to the last year, but that's not an option. Sweden and Russia
I
getting
just like remember like right now I'm at 11 centers off, so it's like a far path.
yeah. I'll quickly move to Asia because that was the Americas, and then we've talked to death about Europe. Um, I think the Ottomans just continues to die here in ways that are very guaranteed to like work for Russia. Um, though some of these moves are a little inefficient, I think. Come on.
Yeah. Also, like as I said, I'm very passive in Arabia because we agreed on Portugal and me not fighting. So I
Yeah,
even convoy an army out over to Cairo. So
I think even though these is just like a holding move essentially for these cores, I think Portugal might not see it that way either. But we'll see.
I was like if I don't attack him, maybe, and if we don't get to impunity, I gonna use these core definitely.
Yeah.
Especially if there were plans to fight Russia, so I needed these cores anyway.
Mhm.
But that would result in Portugal stepping me for Riyadh next order, so that's annoying.
Yeah, not too much of a spoiler. We'll get to that in a couple minutes here. In Asia, this is the start of Tokugawa trying to. Well, Tokugawa wants to guarantee that they can get Amami here, and I'm like, okay, I'm leaving via East China Sea. And I just say I'm leaving via East China Sea. Truthfully, they could go for Amami, they could go for East China Sea, they could go for Kurashio Current. I think me trying to be confident about where they're gonna go, that just doesn't work. So I'm willing to just be reliable for this first turn, and then who knows how many turns this game goes on for. So I just want to go back to my alliance structure with them because this Qing fleet is not coming off the board, and they're still stressed about defending their centers, but from it. Um, Ming is also giving them some trouble around here. They're not making any progress, which is, well, they are putting a fleet into Pyongyang, which I like. But other than that, not really. Russia has made a ton of progress in Manchuria, as we can see during retreats. Um, more Qing armies are dying, and they're just everywhere. Ming even like they don't even have Sungpa. Like this is a bad situation. Portugal can't possibly hold Kabul, and yeah, um, England has talked about this diplo with Russia, and it's about as stressful as it sounds. Ming holds here. Mughal's just cores, or attempts to core. Ming goes back to like getting into Pegu with IU and then setting up on Shenhua. I kill the fleet in Guangxi. So I no more Ming fleets in the South China Sea. I could maybe potentially even go for Kunming. I don't know how long this game will last, and I'm not trying to like grow because that puts a target on my back. So I think I decide at this point I'm going to go back to Hanoi with support and then get Fong Rong and then leave that Southeast Asia as is. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, there
hold the
was like a
line.
lot of counting of dots, how many you could get and how many Athapasca or Portugal need to keep so you don't solo this.
Yeah, and I am stressing about that. Like I'm stressing about it from the other perspective. I know that I can't possibly like get beyond 25%, but I know that if people think that they need to bring me lower, that rather than like pushing someone higher, then I'm gonna start a decline that I can't get out of. So I try and manage my decline a little bit, starting this
Let's look
turn.
at winter.
Let's go to fall.
Oh,
So
fall, sorry.
Ming and Mars, and I wish I knew they were gonna do that. They were supposed to support me into IU, and let's make sure that it's not a map error. If it's not a map error, they do NMR here. I'm probably should have went for Kunming in that case, uh, and been a little bit more aggressive with my moves. I
Wasn't
should have.
there a mess up on this map because IU doesn't have orders here, but they didn't NMR. They do have orders.
Yeah, yeah,
I
they
don't know when
do.
that's fixed on the maps because that took a while to get fixed.
It's not
I
fixed
remember that
on the
happening.
clean map.
Yeah.
It's fixed here, during winter builds. So yeah, IU does bounce me out of Nakhon C. They hold IU, and I remember seeing this and being so angry because I went down by one, and during retreats I had been neutral. So I actually wanted to force disband Gadames so I could build that somewhere else. I was thinking either in Asia, South America, like something. Um, and I couldn't because they they had their orders and it just was a map error. Um, it's fine. It was fine in the end, but that weird interaction that happened. Um, Portugal, I mean, sorry, Tokugawa goes for Amami. They mess up their orders around Senjing. They don't grow off that, even though Ming NMRs. Um, and Inuit's still creating problems for Russia, which I appreciate. They're defending themselves, and then Qing goes down to SPO, but gets bounced by Portugal there. Probably because they asked to specifically go to that tile, and Portugal bounces them directly in that tile. Because it's like, what are you doing down there? Tokugawa, for their part, does not like this fleet being here. They are really upset about this fleet being here because it still means that their home islands are threatened. Um, as for other stuff, as
Yeah,
you're saying,
Portugal dots me here.
yeah, they'd get you in Riyadh. You are holding in Somali Basin, I think.
No, I actually did not. I forcefully like let this fleet like retreat, so I wanted it to retreat into Indian Ocean. So I
Yeah,
have like better attack onto Portugal, but then after that phase again, we had like a lot of talk, and then I retreated to Hobyo. I remember like the Portuguese player were like very keen on this not going into Indian Ocean, and yeah, it
Yes,
was.
but because
Haha, there he is.
yeah,
Like we agreed
Indian
on that
Ocean.
me holding this
Yeah,
unit, I purposely did not hold it so I can retreat it into Indian Ocean. But yeah, after he dotted me into Riyadh and then all the dots we needed to count that we can win together, I was just like, okay, it's not worth it to fight here. I go Hobyo and then we just win together. So whatever.
By the way, I didn't mean to get into Somali Basin here. Portugal just
Yeah,
asked me
as I
to attack
said,
it.
like I told him I gonna hold it, but I wanted it to get so it can retreat into Indian Ocean. That was like kind
I
of
was
the plan.
hoping to get into Australia, just because English Australia would be cool.
The other moves I'm noticing is like, you're moving more aggressively against Congo here. You
I
do
think
get
I just laid out like perfect moves to take as much dots as I can in 2 years. I think they're all like planned 2 years ahead from now.
Yeah, I do wonder if it wasn't for like getting more builds, I wonder if this army could have went to like Mongo for like better pace to like reach some of these other ones. Cause like
And
you
then I
have
still
Azande
miss
right
Banda.
here.
Yeah, but like if I take it shouldn't matter. Like wrote them down. It's like I get
It
all the dots which I need. But maybe you're right. I don't know.
it
Okay.
still baffles me that Kongo was happy to roll over and just
I think
let
it's
you
like
have this.
the role play aspect into that it's like the colonial like the African alliance, and I called it like that, and it was like the only way we have a real shot in winning. So he's kind of in within the victory, even he's
You
not on
seem
the
to have been
scoreboard.
lucky that you got players who like to lean into roleplay at least somewhat.
Yeah, I put it this way: me stabbing Inuit, they didn't turn around and say, "Sure, you can have my centers."
Let America be united under your crown, my liege.
To be
Like,
clear, I
Yeah,
never stepped
but did
Congo.
you
Like
ask Inuit first?
true.
You should have asked nicely. You need to say
I
please.
legit like asked him and draw it out like how I take his dots, and he were fine. Like okay, then I'm
It,
not gonna argue.
it is better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
No,
True.
I asked for permission, and if he wouldn't say no, I maybe just gone anyway. But
I have a feeling that sometimes if you not if it's a center, but if you tell someone you're moving to an aggressive position against them and it's not a center, they will feel like they're more likely to be okay with it because at least you've told them first and it's much less aggressive than you just going in without warning, especially if there's one of their neighbors who they're more worried about, who like because they haven't said where they're going at all. That happened to me one time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Inuit does actually still like me more than Spain here for some reason.
They even go so far as to like take your orders for like an attack on me. We didn't talk about it much last phase, but you somehow whisper them into attacking me the second you start attacking them. And not only
Oh,
that, they follow up on it as well instead of
yeah, no,
leaving.
the spring was a whole thing of we need to stop Spain from soloing it for a second time, and this time they're on board with it. Only this time I'm not quite so on board with it.
I'm
And yeah,
surprised they're actually like seems to have the best friendship in me at this point, or maybe Toku.
The
I
the
don't know
Inuit
about
are
Toku,
sold
but
that Toku is still their friend at this point. Um,
I
yeah,
have not been paying attention to the East the entire of this game. But I
yeah,
was
there's
just
only three
surprised by
centers.
how me and Inuit were basically in an unspoken war this whole time, and then suddenly we're both like helping each other against whatever it may be.
I mean, I basically say I need these centers. I think we have a conversation as I need these centers. I saw it as the only reason to only way to stop Spain winning. And they do actually resonate with that, and I'm like, I'm very upfront of like I don't really want to completely crush them, which is true. Considering assuming the plan works, this game ends next year, and therefore Inuit survives. And I'm saying, all likelihood is you're what, seventh or eighth on the scoreboard at the end, because that's what they care about at this point. They just want placement, which is fair enough.
With the ELO or the ranking system, you do need VSCC, not just placement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think
I
they were.
found that out the hard way.
Yeah, I don't think they were caring as much about the ranking, like imp tip points, but just the scoreboard on the game. Because look, everyone gets endorphins from seeing that their country's
Yeah,
higher up on the scoreboard than others.
The IDR was something that hadn't even dropped until after our game included as well.
Yeah.
So
I don't. Yeah.
Uh,
That was why I
yeah.
was so happy to see Congo throwing actually, because I think in the end, if Congo had thrown by 2 more centers, I would have gained a place above them on the leaderboard.
But
Yep.
yeah. Yeah. So the other thing is Shoshone dies now. They had no army. I think Spain asked, "Oh, can we leave them for a year?" I was like, "No, no, we can't." Then Spain stopped pressuring the point. Yeah, because
I
yeah, I
thought it
think
was worth asking on their behalf, because they did ask me to ask you, and
uh,
I just I I did that. I fulfilled my duty as their guarantor, and then uh, the answer was given. I was like, okay.
yeah. Yeah, I think I said something along the lines of, yeah, Inuit and England are probably working together, and if they got into Gulf Stream, it could actually cause problems, potentially. But yeah, so
Yeah. I mean, say whatever you need to say. I just if
yeah,
you wanted that, you would have had that.
yeah, I wanted it, I got it. End of basically.
Last year I didn't mention it, but I did get into NAO, which is the only time I'm ever in NAO. This game, getting into Bermuda was nice. Um, getting Barbuda, getting New Courland. Oh, well, letting Poland back into New Courland after taking Baracoa. That was what we had arranged in the Caribbean. I knew that England would do something along here. I didn't know what exactly that'd be. Uh, I stopped them from getting into any centers from that, and me and Portugal agree that I should probably be in J here. Um, though I warned them that Aymara will definitely not throw here, and Portugal was like, "No, no, it'll be fine." It spoiler, it was not fine. Um, and I think that means
Yeah,
they
so
lose both
yeah, from
these.
my impressive Aymara, I thought that they had given up, which is reasonable because they said it like Tennessee's or Tennessee's. For most of the game, it was obvious that they had no chance to win, and I just hoped that they would hate Spain more than me and, I don't know, give me 1 or 2 assists, but they obviously just stabbed me, which is okay, but it really, really hurted me in South America because I lost like, I don't know, 4 assists.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember looking at your South America and going, "What the hell is going on there? Why you're so good at everywhere else? Why is South America so thin and small?"
I think part of it is that while you see one half of the puzzle, I'm also seeing my part of the puzzle. Because now that I'm talking with you, I'm realizing what you're getting from Aymara. And it's low key kind of what I've been getting from Aymara the whole game. Me and Aymara have had that exact same kind of press where I'm thinking that if I just am friendly with them, eventually they'll throw me like 1 or 2 SCs because that's all I'll need. That's not the case. They never concede anything, and they're playing the turtle very well. Um, I don't really. I think at this point I decide that there's no point in continuing to try and negotiate things with them. The best thing I can do is say that, yeah, I'll leave you alone, and then just let spring and fall of next year come when what they will. Uh, and then warn Portugal to like do their part in pressuring them from the other side, which
I
comes a
think
little bit
like,
too late.
which is interesting if you go to East Africa. In this phase, I thought a lot about of stabbing Portugal again. I even told that to Spain, but he was like, "No, don't do that." But I think like convoying Zanzibar here to Madagascar and pushing Somali Basin into Mascarene Sea is like very scary. At least it looked for me that could work.
Uh, that would work. That would be very brutal as well. It would put you in
Or even into
Imarina. It would put you
Laccadive.
Yeah,
in.
I wanted to convoy into Marina because I thought he's gonna cover the dot and then maybe yeah, and
India
support
looks
Somali.
very open.
Yeah, let's say like it's you move Chabelle. No, that wouldn't work because you
I
need
think
support, but
The Mali Basin into Mascarene Sea, supported by Shibel, and then convoying Zanzibar via the Shell Sea to Marina. That was kind of the plan.
They can defend Reunion quite well. Whereas if you go to India, there's so many centers
I
and not
think I
many
can. Yeah,
units.
you're right. I can just Lacedev Plateau is just guaranteed Cochin, right?
Yeah. But it's
Unless
I
they
think the
build,
argument is that like yeah, you'll get into Somali Basin, but you have Marig and then this fleet like that can also just like do more stuff in the Arabian Sea, which are all these centers in my
Yeah, maybe that's the right path. I never thought about that, but I was fixated on Madagascar, I guess.
Yeah. I don't think that it's too impossible for Portugal to get these fleets into like some useful places. But the only fleet that can do that is Gulf of Oman immediately, and then it's just everything Congo lying out. There's so
Also,
much
like I did not
density
move my
around here.
Arabian units for a year now, so I could have get them into better position onto Rastak and Muscat for.
Keep in mind that I got, I think, 6 Assis in this year, so I had plenty of options to build.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
This was a really good year for Portugal as well, and really solidified like for these four powers. It was a really good year. All of us get up really up here, and actually Athapasca overtakes me, or I think ties with me in our VSCC.
Oh yeah,
No,
and
this
then
is
immediately
before
someone
I
declares a surrender
get.
vote.
Yeah, I think that's
Oh
Inuit.
yeah, Inuit does that because they're just trying to end the game.
I
And
think there
after
were a
that,
couple of times where I called a surrender vote to Spain just to try and get other people to realize that Spain was up at the top and therefore a threat, and therefore we shouldn't surrender and we should keep fighting Spain.
I thought that was like an
Does that make
Ottoman thing,
sense?
to be honest. Like, it's just
no, it was England. England told
That
me
was,
about it at the time,
oh yeah.
but
I don't think it did much.
yeah, no. The one significant thing about me being at the top of the scoreboard, though, I believe this is the only time. This is the first time that's happened in a game. In this game, that a regional has been top of the scoreboard. Rest of the game, it's been one of the
Oh,
colonials.
that's
Yes.
actually very
yeah,
true.
most of the game it was me.
I
Now
think
that's
it
what
was.
I am.
I think it was either you or Spain for much of it. Yeah, I don't think
I
Portugal was
think
top.
I was
it
in the
was
top
almost
for like
always
1
me.
year or maybe
Oh,
2 years.
fair.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Also on my radar is how many is Russia.
That's
Russia
seven.
is not not far
And Sweden,
behind.
yes. But
And what did Sweden go? But Sweden only went +3. Russia went +7.
Sweden
Which
needs to get like +9 to win. But
yeah, and Russia needs +11 to win. But it's not as we're getting into this last year, which we'll finish off by just going over. No, I think that's everything. I mean, I get into Banca.
oh, I think Russia takes Kabul. That was it.
Russia
At
does take
last.
Kabul.
Then
Uh,
they can't really do
and
anything.
then Austria comes back. Oh, well, I can talk about the Med. It is the one place I forgot. Um, Eastern Europe is Austria continuing to get pushed in. Russia owns all of Carpathia now. I'm in Adriatic Sea somehow. Naples is in Rome. Uh, Corsica, which was my trick of getting Ligurian Sea into someplace useful. I put it to Corsica, then I'm moving it to Tyrrhenian Sea, so Rome can only retreat to Tuscany or gets forced disbanded. Austria takes Genoa, but I'm in Savoy. Aquitania is in Marseille. I have Barcelona and Aquitaine. I'm stalemating out the Iberian stuff. This is all arranged by now.
Yeah.
Portugal even helps me out by conga lining out and then I move my fleets into some places that just make me feel even more safe. And
I
So
then
didn't
like
actually
the two
realize I could
dots
have been
were arranged as well.
walking into
the two
Porto
dots
this
were
whole time.
arranged, though I'm not gonna lie, I did try and hedge my bets and be like, if they put in the wrong order, I keep Gadames, yay. If not, then oh well.
I made sure that that's
I'm
not gonna happen.
Yeah.
I even thought
I'm
about like going for Zan, but then I was like, I'm gonna
More
go.
so, I just didn't want to cover Tunis. Like I wanted to maybe build a fleet there, just to if in case I mess up, like where I'm moving my fleets up here.
mhm.
Mhm.
I'm being very
Um,
trusting
that's it.
to Portugal in English Channel.
Rightfully
that
so,
part
I
of
think.
defense against Sweden. Although the way that things end out, it does. I kind of feel like Portugal took advantage of me at the end. And if I was more paranoid than I am, I would say that the whole thing was a ruse by you and Portugal to cut me specifically out of the impunity. But I
Oh,
don't know.
like
It just
from
kind
the
of worked
long
out that
game?
way.
Nah, I don't. It
Because
was.
it
Yeah.
ended up that you and
Actually,
Portugal, I feel, got most of my centers.
from the long game, it was my plan to cut Spain out of the impunity and just win with England.
I knew
Actually,
it.
if you
I
read
knew it
my
the whole time.
no. Let me explain. If we, in my right before the game even started, I made a big plan, and the plan was basically Portugal can't realistically go for the solo, but I can go for impunity together with England because England and Portugal are extremely good allies. And the plan was to be friends with Spain and England, and maybe stab Spain with England. And the plan was laying around for most of the game, but I quickly realized that I couldn't realistically stab Spain.
Well, the realistic part is in my ability to trust you, and I have two modes, and I could probably do with having a little bit of incrementalism in between. If I trust you, you're not getting a lot of units on your border, and those units are going to more efficient places where I can do that, like where I can use them. If we're in a hostile or cautious relationship, you're getting units, we're doing some arrangements to stall out that front, and it is a waste. But and that's a privilege that I can only really do if I'm growing in other places. And because I conceded the Caribbean, because the Mediterranean was not going so great, the colonial triple, I kind of knew that I wasn't going to be able to like invest anything into countermeasures in Iberia. And if I'm putting units down, they go for centers and they go for growth that I can reinvest and like re-energize my colonies. I think I timed my stabs perfectly fine. Um, and in doing so, I prevented you from considering to stab me, which I think is fair. Um, it's a shame that England got most of the damage from that, but really, I was most concerned about Portugal.
Honestly, I don't think that it was that great for you to stab me because mm, it would have been far more efficient to just arrange we both build two armies in Iberia and keep bouncing because we wasted like 10 units each to just do nothing. I mean, you took two SCs from me and I managed to retake them 1 year after, so it wasn't really efficient.
You say that, but you're like the reason why the way it played out, like, and we saw it over the course of the different years that we've been covering. You and I were still growing the whole time, but my growth was off of the stuff I was taking from you. Your growth was in spite of what I was taking away from you. And I think that rebalancing of growth in that way, like, yeah, it took units that were stationed here, but if those units ever left to try and be useful or went into mainland Europe, like if they don't grow, then you probably have the resources to stab me everywhere all at once. Like, you could do that reasonably. And that's what I was worried about, and I didn't bring it up to you ever. Because,
That's fair.
yeah,
That's fair, but I think that it wouldn't have been a problem because we too could have just ended the game like 4 years earlier.
maybe. I but if you were ending the game earlier in a two-way, I think you would have done it with England rather than me.
I mean, I had no plan. I'm not someone who allies someone and sticks with the guy forever. I had no problem with stabbing England. If you would have told me, yeah, I'm going to stab England now, let's just kill them and make a two-way impunity, I would have, of course, complained and asked for something in return that I assist you, but I would have just stabbed England and
Mm.
ended the game. So I don't really care about who is going to win. I just want to win myself.
But
Okay.
instead, you downgraded a three-way into a four-way, which is, It's kind of funny. It's
Hey,
like
that's absolute cinema
that's
right
what
there. But
you
think
get.
about this: I'm bored topping that 4-way. So, well, that's a spoiler. Let's keep.
I think it worked out really well.
I don't know,
think so.
mate.
Abyssinia, do you have thoughts on this?
I think you should have stayed in your
I,
box.
I like it was like I grew so much that at some point I was like, "Hey, actually, I can join this impunity," and then yeah, I traded it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like you're outvoted England.
As
um,
always.
I will say.
Did we mention
That's-
the four tile oceans? I don't think
Oh,
we did.
we never did. It was something I immediately violated on purpose with Ming. I understood the rule and then I broke the rule explicitly.
let's not get into the random mandate of heaven
Okay,
or the
never
random
mind.
things that
I
came
liked
up.
that because
Funny, but
that
no one
meant
paid any attention to it.
no, but
And
that
let's
meant I
let's
had
move
less
to
to do
let's
with
move to the last year so
Lithuania.
we can conclude this.
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Fall retreats. Molly. Oh, Molly has a last gasp. Portugal goes to Goiás to try and salvage this. Also to Sao Paulo.
Oh, did
Um,
Marley actually die?
Molly
Yes.
did actually
Molly
die this
Yes.
year.
I
Um,
brutally murdered them.
I force
Myself.
disbanded, but then I convinced
You
them
should
to
have done
allow
that
this unit
before you
off,
stabbed
like to
Poland.
kept on the
Yeah,
board.
I was kind of like not that I cared that much, but I was like, how you can even have this unit now? But yeah.
I put it on Tunis, and then this is actually just an army in Tunis because of we talked about it previously, the Ayutthaya like
Yeah.
evaluation.
Incident.
Um, the Nakhon Sea incident. Agreed. Everywhere else, I think it's just pretty standard. A lot of units come off the
Yeah, I
board.
moved like to Holbio. That was like a big part in the discussion with me in Portugal, I think.
Oh, and Ottomans died this year too. I remember this
Yeah,
as
that
a year of like people just dying. Like Ottomans
yeah.
died, Mali died, Ute died. France died if they didn't already. No, they died
Yeah.
the year prior, but
France is already dead.
yeah. Um,
But
and
But
then
yeah,
you've
so
there
got
was like a lot of consideration moving to Indian Ocean and stuff, but whatever.
like
yeah.
4 more powers on one center as well.
Yeah, we'll see how many of these guys make it. Yeah. The conversation, like, because we've been having parallel channels the whole time. Me, Portugal, Abyssinia, Athapasca. I don't think there's a group chat at all. And there still
No,
won't
there's
be a
not.
group chat that includes all 4 of us. There's a group chat that I open up though because I asked Portugal and Abyssinia, "Are you guys like gonna stop fighting?" And both of them were like, "I don't trust the other one." And so I'm like, "Okay." Essentially that. And
Actually,
I
that
say,
I
okay, we're having a conference. We are going to sort this shit out. I'm not gonna have our like chances get fumbled away because we miscalculate. And I decide I'm gonna hold the Tangier conference. I spent so long coring it. I'll name my conference after it. Okay, and that begins a long discussion about, hey, honestly, they probably repeat what they already told each other. But I'm just like, tell me and for like posterity reasons, like why we need to all like work together. And they said the right answer, that any either Sweden or Russia can get in the impunity. And I just agree with them that like, yeah, it would suck to go from a 4-way to a 5-way. What I don't tell them is that like I probably die if we have to wait for Russia or Sweden to get involved in the impunity.
Do you?
For all the reasons that we
Really?
described before, because my cooperation with all the other powers is very conditional, and no one's making the first move on me. And this is
We
like,
no, yeah. There's a lot of worry because if you look, Sweden can only really grow into England and Austria. Then they have to go into Spain or Russia. Russia has a Austria, potentially Sweden if they stab them, but also has Ming, a bit of Inuit. When we look at us, Abyssinia is about to run out of space and basically has no front with anyone but Portugal, or Spain.
yeah, I could only
No,
fight
but
Portugal. Yeah, that was
Abyssinia
really
can win easily off the Kongo centers.
Not win,
Uh,
but like keep growing to keep up.
It-
I could
Like,
have gone. I could have
Yeah,
gotten out.
it's
I think I could have got whole Africa if I really try. But
I don't
it,
think so
it's
because I
ladder
got
worry
in the last
basically.
year I got 8 builds or 7 builds, so I could just put down 7 fleets in Indian Ocean and blockade you.
yeah.
What
Like,
do you want to do against it?
yeah, but that doesn't save Africa for you. So that's what I want. But yeah, you're right. I couldn't get into Arabia. That's probably true.
the
Mm.
what I'll say is that like I did this out of self-interest. I needed the four-way impunity to happen. I knew we needed enough lead time in order to make it happen. And so fall retreat phase, it's like I have to convince you guys that these retreats need to be so friendly and signals to the other that like there is no shenaniganry going on here, that we are working together for this victory. And I even throw in that like I'm gonna force disband and then I like change it to like being in Tunis. Like I make all that very clear. And because of that, I think this is the first signal that says to like all three of us, hey, we're going to be going ahead for this impunity together. And we follow it up with the build phase, where is this the build phase? Or is this clean map? This is a build phase without the builds. There we go. There we go. Yeah, this is the correct build phase with the correction. So my army is in Tunis, and we identify what everyone's builds are going to be in the Indian Ocean, in Africa in general. And as a result, I think this allows us to trust each other enough to go into the movement phase with complete confidence that all the moves are going to be correct. There's no reason to be inefficient by putting up all these like redundancies. Like, well, yeah, we're going to try and like take Riyadh, but I also need to protect against like any slipping in from Muscat or whatever. Like, whatever like anxiety is still there, that needs to go away, and thank God it did. Um, yeah. As for other interesting things that happened during build phase, I mean, Athapasca is hitting their stride with like all their builds, and you know,
I
they're
think is there a single tile which is not an Athapascan army in his land? It feels like he builds every year 5 armies.
yeah. I would
So
never touch this concentration of force in my life. Like, there's just too much. There's too many like armies here to make any progress. Um, Sweden makes nothing but armies, which with how dense the seas are right now, that makes sense. And everything can be convoyed somewhere. Hell, they could be. I even message him like, "Are you considering like maybe convoying these to like start an attack on Russia?" Like, I don't know, or at least defend against Russia. He considers it, to be honest, but I don't think he ever does anything with that. England takes off some more in India. Um, Takes off some of the African stuff, not all the African stuff. And that's about it. Like the power, like there's only like these are the powers in play right now, and we might
I
even
think we
include
did like a
exclude
lot of
Inuit.
math here now. So we all agreed like Russia is only allowed to go +4, and like every one of us needs like 7 at least. So that was like very weird.
Yeah, you need 7.
I feel like if
Portugal
Ming
needs
had chosen
7.
to flow to Russia,
I need 5, and then Athapasca needs 3, which seems like Athapasca is the safest, but actually, if you look, there's not like this is hard to push into with only armies, and so they just barely might be able to get their 3. But that's worth mentioning. Russia can only go plus like if they go anything more than +3, so if they get to 41 centers, they are within 25% of the rest of us, and we can't win no matter what we do. But Sweden's a ways off and is even less likely to succeed because of its
hmm
armies versus armies in Europe. Like there's not going to be a big like win that they're going to have. What I notice is that Austria took off all their navies, Ottomans took off all their navies, and the Med is now a lot more cleaned up. There might be a good chance I grow by like +3 off the Med. Uh, I say that they can, like Abyssinia, can keep Ghadames in Tripoli in all likelihood, and we're gonna be okay with that. I tell Portugal if they need 1 or 2 centers, they can get some off me, and I also make the decision here that I am probably going to need to kill my minor minor allies. Some like that kill the Dutch in Sambas, kill the Polish in New Courland, and get any SC that I can. Except, ironically, I still don't let myself take anything off of Tokugawa. I make that rule for myself because I just appreciated the Tokugawan's fighting spirit too much. I'm also continuing to talk with Ming, and Ming still is okay to throw to me. Which is like, okay. All
I
right.
can't believe Mughal survived.
A little bit of a spoiler, but yeah, I mean, with this setup, they're not going to be falling
Yeah.
anytime soon.
I
All of
blame
these are
Ming.
arranged in North America. Inuit is starting to finally go back, except they do the Sea of Cortez move, which Athapasca asked them to do, and I get really pissed about that, to be honest. I don't know Athapasca told them to do it. I assume they're trying to do this to get favor with Athapasca, and I tell them, you better not do anything with this, otherwise,
Mexico City.
otherwise, I mean, Mexico City is open. He can just get it. But I tell him that, like, if you do that, and I am down by one more supply center than I needed to in order to be like to like make this impunity even possible, then you will die to Athapasca. You just will. And you're going to end up in a worse place than had you not. And I think that has an effect on him. Uh, and well, we'll see if it works out for me. As I predicted, there's not much progress that goes on in Alaska. It's not impossible that something gives way here, but it's just not very likely. So
I
there's
think it was a mistake to tap both things there, though.
it's almost guaranteed to not work, but I understand the idea of like if this fleet is allowed to like get supported into Nome or something, then like you're not taking this ever. Versus like if you tap this and then tap this, like they're gonna try and have to do the same thing next turn. I don't know. This fleet ended up tapping Koryax actually, which gets taken by Tokugawa because Tokugawa is now finally moving against Inuit. Um, this fleet is back out in the Kuroshio Current, which could maybe go to Okinawa. I don't. I mean, it could also go out to NPO. It could also go out to Philippine Sea. Like this is probably the most dangerous move that Tokugawa has done. But for now, it's fine because they need to put it into NPO to help support their Arctic shit. So it's whatever. I support, for my part, I support Fusan into Nanjing, and that works out. They attempt to get Shanjing again, and that fails because they didn't use this army to attack. They used it to support this fleet in, and even though Russia was supporting this army in, this fleet could have supported the army in and had been fine. Oh, England, you're like really muffled. Your mic might have died. That's my best guess, but look into that. Oh, right, this exchange. This maybe looks like a stab. This is all arranged because while I need to only get 5, Portugal needs to get 7, and we agree that that's actually pretty hard for Portugal to do, especially with their peace with Abyssinia now, and the Congo being given mostly to Abyssinia. So I agree that I'll give up Makassar Island in exchange for centers elsewhere on the map that are more consolidated, like Bordeaux. I move in there, and at first I move into Galapagos, which is another one of the centers that I was going to get given in a trade. Uh, that is, it's a trade for now, but we're setting ourselves up in a way to where if Portugal needs more centers, they can take them from me, and if I need to if it's fine, then I can just complete the trade 2 for 2. But if Portugal needs more, I could walk out of Galapagos. I could let them into Makassar and Manadao. But we agreed I had to get into Bordeaux in order to make the most progress in Europe, which is attacking Dijon. I think either to attack into Genoa or Tuscany or Savoy, and I end up going to Tuscany, which bounces the Genoan army, and that stays in there. That Genoan army was actually trying to retreat. to go up north. I decide that I will convoy an army from Tunis into Rome with support from Adriatic Sea. This
I
fleet will
think
go
we
to
agreed that I
Naples.
might need Tunis, so that's also a reason.
Yeah. And then I get Gulf of Gabes to go to Ionian, and it's just like I'm getting as much lined up for anything that I can see from Austria. Um, Portugal,
Abyssinian fleet makes its first appearance in the Met.
yeah. I remember thinking to myself, it'd be awesome if we could get like anything going on in the Turkish area.
Yeah, that was like the plan. I think I drawed out a lot of convoys which are possible, but I think I have like very little space to actually attack Russia. But yeah,
Yeah.
at least I thought
Maybe the
if it's
Smyrna
needed,
move would work, but I'm not sure. The retreats. Oh wait, we're skipping over a bit. North America is kind of self-explanatory at this point. I knew this Quebec and Nagaspa move would happen at some point, though I'm not gonna lie, the move from Port Royal to Massachusetts, I think that might have been a I don't know, this might be like your only tactical mistake that I've seen, Athapasca, and I didn't even catch it when looking at your moves, or I don't know if you were even sending your moves to me at this point, but this was like, I feel like if you hold this, even if they slip into Portland, there's nothing that really happens there, you know? Like you push them out the next year. Is
Athapasca's
Athapasca still
gone.
here? Oh,
No,
okay.
no.
So Athapasca's gone for now, which means that we just get to talk over their position. This is what I mean where they're slow to make progress, but they get at least 3 centers here. This, and then Port Royal. Um, I say kind of
Do
guaranteed.
they?
Honestly, Port Royal isn't even guaranteed because of this fumble with Massachusetts. At least with Gosp, you could use this to support yourself in. I don't know, you could still
Yeah.
support with that. But like you're at that point we're talking about getting overloaded on your defenses. Like I think that it's very possible for them to like lose something here. But like they get two
Oh, Norfolk.
centers and Norfolk. Like that's the 3 they need, and I calculate that they could probably get 4, but that's about it. Um, yeah. The
They only get Inuit's capital as well, don't they?
They do not. They're getting
Oh no,
bounced
there's an
here.
army in there. My bad.
Yeah, I didn't even know that this could go there with an army, to be honest. But is that what this is
Yeah,
supposed to
so
represent?
that's what it means. You can
Okay,
go Hudson to Arctic and also Equaluette to Nunavut.
that's really strange. I guess that's what these 2 lines going through each. I thought this was just a weird
Yeah.
compass, but that's fun, kind of interesting.
No, that's the yeah.
Um, the I guess I should say we had originally intended for me to force disband New Courland so that Poland could build an army that could get convoyed. Uh, I don't actually make the decision this early to kill my minor ally in Poland, but I think I'm already thinking about that with the Dutch. Because I mean, I had less of a good relationship with the Dutch. I had a really good relationship with Poland, and I was really hesitant to kill Poland. Um, but I mess up. It's Barbuda instead of Barbados. So Barbados tries to go to Sargasso Sea, and Barbuda tries to support Caracas into New Courland. Again, every other year I'm having a mistake, and I think all of them added up probably costed me a solo, and then also like some more fun things that could have been done. But it's whatever. It's not, but I'll say it's whatever. Um,
Yeah, I just have like a move set which takes like 6 dots of Kongo, I think. So that's basically fine.
yeah, you are within range of Mapemba, which was what I was worried about. I was worried you couldn't reach Mapemba, but you can. Um, you're within range of Kinshasa, you get Pongo, you're within range of not only Great Andhra, but also Oyo.
And
And
Fernando Po.
because you're in Gurma, you're also within range of Aja. Oh, and Fernando Po. Okay. So like there's a lot of options for you. Um,
I
and
just remember I drawed them out, so in 2 years I get every single dot over there, so that's all.
yeah. And the whole time we're talking with Portugal, we're like 100% agreed on what happens here. Like even like, and Portugal's like, okay, I'll just get Jenny. I'll probably get Niani or something. Like, it's very clear like who gets what, and also the poor Atlantic battle here. That ends, I mean, with nothing really changing. It essentially was just a bunch of taps, but it's interesting nonetheless. Uh, I end up in Ajuuran, South America. Portugal does not end up in anywhere like new. I think, yeah, like it ends up stalling out in South America with Portugal's moves, and then Jenna falls, Baratzi falls, but like it's not under our agreement. This isn't the end of the world. It's easily recapturable, and actually Portugal ends up in Moravi, so. Uh, mm, yes, that's about it. Oh, Sweden ends up doing some moves to get into London here, which is like the only way this could have happened. And it's not even like a for sure thing that stays around. Um, I put a lot more fleets into North Atlantic Ocean, and I coordinate with Inuit over like them also getting their fleets into North Atlantic Ocean. This was after Inuits had snuck into Azores and then snuck back out. I was thinking like, how do these fleets get a center? And it's like, well, that's the only center around. I think Inuit also recognizes that. Um, the English fleet does end up in Cayenne. I'm
Yay.
I'm okay with that because I was just trying to like contain it. Uh, I didn't want it to like go to Gulf of Paria or something, especially if I was disbanding the Polish fleet in New Courland and I was trying to leave it in the fall. So, um, that's that spring. Any thoughts on the spring?
Um,
Nothing
Not
interesting.
really.
Nothing
Not
too
really.
I
interesting.
was surprised at how much Portugal was taking off me
Yeah, they
in
were ready
India,
to
particularly.
they were ready to go. They have two armies here. They even have
I
Sasram
was.
ready to take Kolkata if push comes to
uh,
shove.
They
Um,
wouldn't be able to do that.
no, not with the Russians where they are. Ming
But
actually
like, I've
does
got
do
three
a
on Kolkata.
counterattack against Russia, which I actually thought was like pretty good. Like Russia doesn't get nearly as much.
Um,
Oh, we should talk about Russia
also,
because they're
Yeah, I
the
think we should talk
Yeah.
about
oh
that.
yeah,
yeah.
I think I was talking to Russia a lot around this time because I was like, oh snap, Russia can stop the impunity, which is good for me because this is how Tokugawa can still win.
And this is
that's
Tokugawa
Japan speaking,
speaking.
by the way.
Yeah. So we need to talk about Russia because that's really important. Russia is slow this turn. In the spring, they're actually pretty slow, I think. Not the most aggressive move set against Austrians Balkans. This could have easily gone to Aegean or Macedonia, and this army could have stayed in Smyrna if this fleet is in Aegean for convoying and stuff. Um, I don't know. I think that this is not the best move set that could have happened from Russia in the Balkans. And as a result, a lot of their safe growth is not safe at all. Um, I would have
But they
thought
do.
Sarajevo would have been on the board easily, or Vienna.
But in order to stop the impunity, they only need to grow by 3, and it's like out east
Four,
they do.
starting from 37, they need four.
Yeah, they need 4. We
I thought I calculated it as them needing only 3.
No, because it's
Oh.
like they need 40.75, which you can't have 0.75. You need to get up to 41. So
Let me see here. So let me do the math real quick and pull up in my calculator.
I welcome the math. I'm gonna quickly get something.
So if they grew by 3, they would have been at 78.9%.
you need to like do the math with like subtracting their starting centers and stuff.
Yeah, I am. I know that.
It's like listen, Tokugawa has a job at math. Okay, they've already looked through this stuff 1,000 times before. All right.
So yeah, they would have gotten to 78.9, and then I believe like the lowest one that one of you was going to be at was 33 out of 32, so that'd be 29 divided by 28, which is 103.5, which would mean that 3 centers would have been just barely enough for Russia.
Ooh, okay. So that actually
Mm.
changes a bit because that was our goal was to get the
It was literally
232
like
up to
it was literally
34.
0.5% by 0.5%.
Yeah.
It would have been.
The the Russians were slow in the Balkans, and well, we got to build anticipation. So they're slow in the Balkans. They're in Persia. I don't think they would have ever expected Baghdad or
And
like
I'm ready to And I'm ready
Vaughn
to
should
help
have maybe
Russia
gone.
get those 3 centers to keep this game going, because then I can just rotate down and start attacking Spain to start getting them under the victory count so that they cause the game to go longer too. And then I slowly eat on them and slowly grow and grow and grow. And now
Yeah.
I can maybe be a part of this impunity.
Well, maybe you need to start, not making so many mistakes here. Was this coordinated?
That, it was supposed. I don't know what Russia did there. I don't know what Russia did there. They never got back to me about it after I asked them.
So this army goes to Hohhot, this army goes to Inner Mongolia. Like Inuit are like helping them into Nivsk, which actually is kind of funny. I think they expected like a bounce here or something.
Mhm.
Uh,
But Russia can still grow by 3 easily in the east if they want, without anybody able to
I
stop them.
also remember you telling me that like you thought you could support Russia into Chukchis here, which I'm like, you're on the wrong side. uh, that
No, what I was saying was into Chukchi.
oh, ugh,
Yeah.
gross. With the army convoy possible as well. Yuck. Um,
Yep.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
let's go to fall. What happens there?
so Russia evacuates to Kabul, and then is in Dalmatia, but that's about it. Like everything else is coordinated. And then the fall comes, and we get the saving grace
Uh,
that we didn't know we
Sweden
needed.
in London,
Let's
finally.
focus in on Sweden and London because I think this is the decisive battle of the game, more or less.
Yeah,
Um,
this is it. This is what it all comes down to.
Sweden gets out into southern Bight,
But then I
and
did
and
dislodge North
then
Sea
you
without covering
dislodge North
London.
Sea without covering London. So this actually results in Sweden getting into London, and
I think that was what cut it for me. I couldn't make impunity after that.
yeah, and honestly, I think it really had ripple effects on like what everyone was willing to do going forward into the many years ahead. Um,
Yeah, this will
easily
shake up the world politics.
the
London has fallen.
the game-winning play actually. Um,
Do you want
I'm
to talk
still
about some
very
other more
celebrating.
minor stuff?
let's go into some more of the minor stuff. Austria decides to
Russia,
like no. So Russia
the minor stuff.
yeah, the minor stuff first. So Austria decides that they're gonna go all in on just fighting Sweden. There's some moves here that were like mixed point, like there was a different point to them, but they do essentially go all in on fighting Sweden. So they take Fribourg, they kick Sweden out of Vienna, and they actually take Bavaria at the cost of Stuttgart. So they kill 2 Swedish armies for the price of one of their armies, which is like okay, like
I mean, it makes sense that Austria wants to prevent Sweden from growing, because if you're in Austria's POV, you're dying here if the game goes on longer. So you wanted to end ASAP, and killing Sweden and making sure they don't grow is probably one of your main ways of getting the game to end.
yeah, and then that like one thing I was mentioning, and I don't know if you agree with this, Toku, but when you're a power, like the most growth you can get is if you have a dominance of a particular type of unit, and the other person just like one is not necessarily the opposite. Like if they have nothing but fleets, you're gonna reach a point where you can't do anything about their fleets. But if they're trying to compete with you in terms of armies, like you might actually be able to like press your
Mhm.
advantages. And this is like proof of that, I think.
Yeah.
Don't fight the guy with fleets because they're gonna have tactics that you can't counter. So just brawl.
And hey, that was my plan with Russia, and why I think we would have had a good alliance.
Yeah. So I end up leaving with all of Italy, which I feel pretty good about. Like this is more than I could have imagined. Like I did not think I was going to get Venice,
And
but
then
I'm
the
very
map will
happy
be
with it.
painted later to fix some things.
Uh, no, it didn't. But
Dang.
yeah. Then we go. Some other minor things is that I decide that not only do I not need Gadames, but Abyssinia needs Tunis. Um, which I'm very glad I decided to do. Um, in the North American stuff, it's all arranged, it's all planned, and Inuit is able to be convinced to leave to Berlanga Ridge, which thank gosh. I decided I would
Clean
stay in
borders.
Hawaii, which is like Chang trying to like find some place to survive, which I don't care. Just don't. Um, and like Athapasca like learns from their past mistake and tries to support themselves into Uick, which this is easily predicted. It's a shame that they just get the guesses wrong each time, but what are you gonna do? Um, over here they nearly get Nagasaki. Um, they would not have gotten Port Royal, but they get back Massachusetts. They get into Norfolk and they walk away with these two. So they're at 34. Um, just off that. I decide to kill Poland
No.
to squeeze out every SC that I can in order to stay in the winner's circle. Poland, I'm very glad I decided to do this because not only did I stay in the winner's circle, it might have contributed to a certain something or other later on that I'll mention. I decide to leave Galapagos, which someone tries to get into Galapagos. It's the Dutch. Um, that doesn't go through.
Of
We
course.
have not invented portal travel
Classic
yet.
Dutch move.
Speaking of the Dutch, what's their situation looking like?
Well, they're dead as
Ooh.
well.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're not my Gamora because that's Poland. But like I have to like a small price to pay for salvation. Like I'm throwing you into the pit and getting the soul stone. Like, um, Portugal finishes the trade here. We arrange this always. We make sure to cover Andaman Islands from IU and then put them into Sumatra just in case that there's a tap there. Um, I don't know what to guess around Ayutthaya. I know one of my guesses will work, and that Portugal has a pretty solid guess on Tavoy. So we just go for that. I thought Ming would throw me Kunming, but I guess not. Uh, doesn't matter in the end, but I mean, if it was the difference, I would have been pretty fumed. But I'm not. I'm not mad about that. Um, if I keep saying that, that means I'm not. Ironically, with no way to know this, we had potentially gotten the Mughals to do a certain move with this. I think it was to go to Agra, but in the end we didn't need it. Uh, Instead, Portugal was like, just let them hold in place, and I'm like, okay. Then Sasaram could have gone to Kolkata, to be honest, but there's no way to know. Um, that would have made it all of India Portuguese. I think that would have been really cool.
Actually, not because the convoy was bounced.
No. Anyways, um, South America. we're we're teasing the big reveal. Uh, Brazil and all this stuff. It's a stalemate, but like an intentional stalemate. Nothing breaks, and that's good. I kick England out of Cayenne. Nothing crazy happens along the coast, and Abyssinia ends up in these three centers. Portugal ends up back in
And another
Baratsi.
three in the north.
Yeah, and you end up in another three in the north. England doesn't end up getting Cormonton or Guiaman. Portugal ends up in Niami. Like all this is coordinated, and thank God it was coordinated because we get to the final reveal that Russia has NMR'd. And being short the centers they need to contest us within 25%, all that is required for us is to get Abyssinia over the finish line and to a lesser extent, like worry about us three also. But given everything we've covered, the results are exceptional. It's
And there's a sad
fantastic.
Goku.
And we add a little frowny face to Tokugawa, did not, who did not, who did not end up winning. The angry eyes are actually like up here at Russia.
The sad thing is that if I had known that Russia was NMRing, I could have grown to by 2 more centers at the end and squeezed out a little bit more BC.
Yeah, because I
SS.
talked you out of doing Okinawa, and you talked yourself out of Beijing, or we talked ourselves out of Beijing.
Which I could have got that, and then I could have also slipped into Koryax with another
Yeah,
plate. But
yeah.
I was just going too hyper defensive around the Inuit
With
after
considering
my
the
stab.
game you were playing up until that point, who can blame you?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm surprised that Abyssinia only got 33, which makes me really glad that I gave them Tunis. But I wonder like what other center could have been given
I can do
up.
the math if they had only gotten to 32 real quick if you want.
No. I think it would have been doomed because Russia would have been like easily within 75%.
No, 27 out of 38 is only 71%. So
Yeah, Russia was within the no move. They were short. So
yeah.
Yeah, I was just worried about like what other center could I have? I was thinking about like a Portuguese
you
center
couldn't
being
just give
given
me
up.
another one.
Well,
Portugal needed to give me another one.
yeah, but that kind of three-way trading that we were going for, like, what would that even look like?
I think there
I
was a
think it
time
was Rabat. I think
you
I was
could have
giving them Rabat in exchange
you could have
for you getting like restock or something. Like,
you could have convoyed me to Naples. I think there was like a
oh,
thing I brought
true.
up
Yeah,
once.
this Tripoli move didn't really do anything. But yeah, we could have done that too. But yeah, and that is our end for this
The
map.
Russia NMR threw me off because I thought Russia was about to stab me.
Yeah, I was convincing you that they were gonna stab you, or I was trying to. But no,
Yeah,
their
it's like
non-response is actually just them like not being alive.
yeah.
So if anyone was wondering why the Russia NMR is here, we never get explanations for the Ming NMR or the Ajuuran NMR or like anyone or Austria's NMR, but Russia's we do have an explanation for because certain people were very angry about how this could even happen. Uh, Russia was at a wedding and got the deadlines confused, which considering this game was a mess of extensions and NMRs and extensions,
Yeah.
like yeah, I think that's a fair thing to like assume that like,
Mhm.
oh, I got another day when actually you definitely don't.
Mhm. And the thing is that it was just radio silence from Russia, at least on my end.
Yeah, you were hitting the glass on your car, going like, "Hag,
Hey, I
please."
need you to keep this game going longer, please.
Oh, and unfortunately, it ends. It
The
ends.
time ran out. The
Yep.
clock struck midnight. The
And
Toku revival.
in the end, we made a cleaner version of the map, which this, no, we
No,
don't.
there's
What's
another
wrong with
clean
my
version of the
invalid
map
retreat?
where that's
Come on.
gone.
No,
There's a
no,
new clean
no,
version
no,
where that's
no,
gone.
no.
It's the only color I would have had on the entire map. Come on.
There's actually a new clean version that has that fixed.
Yeah, don't worry, you're still here. You're just like under the Spanish flag or something. Okay.
No,
Uh,
the new clean map, it has that fixed. It's not on
yeah,
that.
I know. I'm not bullying Poland out of their last color on the map because let's be honest, they're still there in Warsaw. They're all still there. That's more
Eh,
than
The
that's more
The Warsaw
than
uprising will come any day now.
yeah. I mean that's near like I mean what is it? Ajuuran nearly got all their stuff cored by Abyssinia. So
Yeah,
like
I called a lot there. That's true.
you nearly like wiped them off the map. So um
The
yeah.
implications of that are gross.
Well, look, like the African Empire is just all one big nation or something. Yeah, I think I think I really liked B1F, guys. What do you say?
It was a lot of fun, even though I kind of like spaced out in the middle.
I can
Yeah.
just say, like, it was my first game and it pulled me in. I'm keen to play more. Even the second one right now isn't that great, but I wanted to play the Blitz game tomorrow. I can't, sadly, but I'm looking forward for the next wave. And yeah, just a nice
Yeah.
game.
My main thought on this is that throwers never prosper.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think either of the two people who promised to throw to me ended in the place they thought they would. It actually looks
There were a lot of
like
throws this game.
yeah, Ming looks like they have their head caved in. Uh, Tyler 1-esque. The IU is looking very like mutilated. Um, to a lesser extent, like Kongo, I guess, didn't look the best.
But Kongo didn't throw. Kongo is trying. It's just they ended up.
Congo won as well.
But like,
I see
compare
what you mean,
those
'cause the only
two.
place I flew was to Portugal in India, and you know,
I don't think you ended
and
up in the place you
really
thought
bad.
you were either. But like,
Well, no, but
compare
as I
that
said,
to Aymara, who was
Fine.
not even asked to be thrown. Like, no one asked them to throw like completely, but they did not even bother to like throw one or two centers, and they end in a pretty good place. And
what was it
like,
on the leaderboard?
They thought she was gonna
they
be up the
ended
whole
up
time.
like right below Inuit,
Damn.
Yeah.
above the Ming, above Austria, above Congo, above England. IU Mughals, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
and they look so neat as well, so consolidated.
If this went
Nice and
on a little
pounced.
bit longer, it's debatable like what units come off the board, like where
Mhm.
like they could have probably cleaned this up a little more.
Well, also, if this goes on longer, the question is, did the other people in the impunity try to cut you?
I think that's a few. Maybe it's not as clear because we're so close to winning and there's exhaustion, but they were saying how like in a few years ago, no one wanted to make the first move against me, and if
Mhm.
someone had, I probably would have gotten cut
So if it
right
were,
there.
so if I had managed to get out of my cell and start moving down, then that could
Yeah,
have been a catalyst.
I don't regret taking Hawaii. I don't regret taking a
You
mommy
shouldn't.
either time.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't. I
uh,
regret not taking Okinawa
yeah.
though. Oh well.
I for one think that it'll be awesome to play the World at War campaign and just getting to Okinawa and it's like Spanish castles instead of Japanese palaces. But
Mhm.
all right.
We do have Japanese palaces in Chukchi though.
Yeah, you do. We're gonna call this the ice palace or something,
I'm so hyped for the new Inuit thing bit in Chukchis.
The
I think I've said
Inuit
this
are gonna
both
be
other
very interesting in that.
both of the
I
other
think they're going to be
times.
worth. I think they're going to be more interesting, but I think they're going to be worth.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's probably the plan.
I think they have less flexibility with their options now.
Yeah.
They kind of have to pay more attention to the Pacific now. They used to be able to
Yeah.
just get away with holding in Chukchi Sea and then
Yeah.
focusing down the colonials, but now they have to do lots more diplomacy with Russia, Qing, Toku, Spain.
And Toku's just going to outdo them in fleet production on that front, if
Uh,
left alone long enough.
I guess so, but
Because like Inuit will have to juggle. Like Inuit basically have
they
like
can definitely
3
work together
space
with
lanes.
Toku.
Yeah.
It's very, very viable to just build armies there and go after Russia or Qing or
Yeah.
whatever. Or
Granted, I haven't seen a
yeah,
Toku win yet that didn't swing upwards and start gobbling up that area around Russia. Which, like, maybe I would have been the one if this game had gone on longer that would have gone south and prospered there, but I don't know.
I'm very aware of the post-game chatter that happened at the end of A2C, but the I do want to try and be a little bit more tight on how long we're doing this.
yeah, that's
If
fair enough.
just as like a last thing, one, are you continuing to play in Imperial Diplomacy, and like how are you doing that? Just go down the list here with who we have left.
Okay.
So I I'm going to. Yes, I'm playing in B1.2.
Nice.
I have Guarani as my first pick,
Ooh, the new
but
South America nation.
there's a decent chance that I don't get it, which I'm fine with because Ajuuran is my second pick.
Mm.
I played Ajuuran in B1.1, and I am very disappointed with how I did.
Yeah, it's not that. I would say Ajuuran is a very hit or miss power.
Well, I feel like if it weren't for Portugal being so good in B1.1, I feel like Ajuuran would have been really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
also signed up for the next wave, but I think I put England and France as my first choices. Looking forward to play Colonial now, and also like playing a game from the get-go. That's like something I want to do. And yeah, I really like the press that you can do as Colonial. I think as Abyssinia, I was very limited in who I can talk to and who cared. So I definitely want to do Colonial.
for my part, I'm going to finish my Austria game and be a 1.1, and tomorrow I'll be playing in the Blitz 3 for Imptip. And that's gonna be me on Russia, actually.
Good luck.
I'm very
Yeah.
excited for this. I didn't necessarily want to play Russia after the Tundra change. I know it like objectively makes them more strong. I don't like that graphically,
Me neither,
aesthetically.
honestly.
Yeah.
So
I think it made more
I feel
sense
like
for
it's
like
gonna
the
be
Amazon.
changed.
or what was that?
I think it made more graphical sense for the Amazon, but yeah,
Yeah.
because
It's probably gonna get changed in the next patch. I'm gonna be honest. It has the feel of something that won't last long.
or for the Sahara, I don't think it makes too much sense for Siberia,
Yeah.
especially since it feels like it's in the wrong spot too.
Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it? I like the idea of like making the Irkutsk and this like East Siberia like kind of like its own little corner, but I don't think that's effectively what it does at all.
I think
Yeah.
it's just like for gameplay perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather there just be like fewer but bigger provinces there. But that's just me.
And we'll see. Yeah, because if the point is for Russia to transport like units very fast, you get that done with like honestly like Kazakh Akmola. But imagine this, but like I don't know, double the
Just
size of
make
it.
one really long, thin province and call it the Trans-Siberian Railroad.
Trucking to
200 years
Moscow.
before railroads.
Trying to truck to Moscow.
I don't know. There's room to judge what could be done
You're gonna
with
play as
Russia
well,
there.
Shifty?
Yeah,
I
Shifty.
am not. I don't. Oh wait, in the Blitz or just in general?
In general.
In general.
Yeah, I don't have time for the Blitz tomorrow. I don't think. But I've signed up to play in the next wave of Imptip games. I'm not sure who or what I'm going to be. I've put down Inuit as my first choice, though, I think. I'm currently playing in Danelaw and 7 Days of Chaos, but those aren't Imptip, and also there's no real point in choosing to spectate me specifically because you don't get to talk in my void. So,
well, is there
but
any?
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Is there
I'm doing
anyone
quite well in
else?
Danelaw actually.
I feel like we skipped Portugal there.
Well, no, I
Yeah,
don't know if we skipped
Portugal.
Portugal. I just needed to check to see if they're still here.
Oh,
Or-
I will play in B1 I will play England with one of my friends. We will play at co-op because playing a colonial alone is so stressful just because you have to put all these orders in. And I don't have time for that, especially for double checking everything. So I will play England co-op.
Nice.
Maybe we get into a game like France and England. That's like gonna be
Oh,
interesting.
that would be funny.
But now I know I can trust you, right?
If you want, I can explain all of my reasoning why I stabbed you multiple times. I can explain it to you if you want.
I
In a
think in
second.
this game we both were hostile to each other, but I think
I think that was like a promise of the future. Like I could explain why I'm gonna stab you so many different times in the future. But all right, well, I'll cut this. Oh.
You skipped me.
Oh, I didn't realize. I apologize. So Tokyo.
So
What are
I've
you doing
also
in the
signed
future?
up for Wave 3, and I put Mapuche as my first choice, and then
Ooh.
which I'm not gonna say a whole lot because yeah.
Well, you've already said a lot in the general chat, so
Mhm.
I think,
I just feel like this has a chance to be seen by more people.
yeah,
I don't know if like four
Mapuche seems
hours
cool.
into or
Yeah,
actually
I don't think anyone.
4
That's a
hours
fair
into
point.
session 3 is gonna be less accessible than our
To
public
anybody
chat.
still watching this,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. I would not have been able to sit through all this. I'm gonna be
And
honest.
you know, if you want to like seek help, there's some hotline numbers that we can put in the description. This, you know, we might need to talk about like having some more
Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a
absolutely
comment.
before all these videos go unlisted in 2 months anyways, because my digital footprint needs to remain elusive.
Especially if you were playing in this game as like another power who didn't manage to show up, please do like put your perspective on the thing.
Yep,
And
comment,
Spain will
get
definitely
that
be
stuff in there.
Spain will definitely be screenshotting those and putting them on the Discord because I'm not going to check it.
Please don't.
I will pin them, and we'll
Your
do
point.
everything we can to get your yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go now. Have a great night and goodbye.
I think we
Alright.
wrap it up here
Alright.
actually.
Yeah.
And that's it. All right, guys.
That's
See
the
ya when
wrap.
I see ya.
yeah.